This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
You are listening to the longest running weekly episodic comic book podcast in all Place to Be Nation.
Broadcasting from the state-of-the-art L-shaped studios at beautiful and serene Ho-Ho Loon Plaza in Vancouver, British Columbia. Greg Phillips and Nick Duke are the Hard-Traveling Fanboys.
Hard-Traveling Fanboys! 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 Place to Be Nation pop listeners, I am Greg Phillips. I am with Nick Duke. We are inside the L-shaped studio in Ho-Ho Loon Plaza in serene Vancouver, BC, Canada. We are the Hard-Traveling Fanboys, and we are so glad you joined us this week for another edition of the Longbook Hunters. Now, the Longbook Hunters, as many of our longtime listeners know, and as you, Nick Duke, well know, is our monthly series where we take a look at a trade, paperback, or graphic novel, collected edition comic, and review it for our loyal listeners. Now, what we are doing this month is getting around to a long-requested, much revered comic book run amongst our listeners and our colleagues here at Place to Be Nation Pop and Place to Be Nation Comics. And that is the Avengers 1998 relaunch by Kurt Busiek, I'm going to say, and George Perez. Now, here's something about this run. It's been collected. However, the collection that they've got out there, which I believe is Avengers Assemble, is the name of it, correct, Nick?
I believe so, yes.
Is 11 issues in length, which is longer than our typical longbook collection. Here's the other thing about it. Neither Nick nor I actually owns a physical copy of this book. We didn't illegally download it, by the way. We are both using the Marvel Unlimited application.
Webby award-winning Marvel Unlimited app, I'll remind you.
The Haffy, probably, award-winning Marvel Unlimited app.
Our good, close, personal, longtime friend Ben Morris was heavily involved with during his time at the House of Ideas.
Friend of the show, Ben Morris. And the tremendous app, Marvel Unlimited, is the only way that we had to read this classic run of the Avengers. So, I am a notoriously slow reader, as Nick often reminds the listeners. And so we've kicked this down the line, this can down the line for, Nick, a month now?
I think it's 2 months. I think it was slated for the last 2 months of Longbook.
So we've kicked this down the line, and I am a notoriously slow reader. However, I am an even slower reader on the iPhone Plus, which is what I'm reading Marvel Unlimited on, because I can't get it to work on my Surface Pro that I have just received recently. So, you know, my plan when I got my Surface Pro was, I'm going to be digital comics all the time. I'm going to be reading Marvel Unlimited all the time. Hasn't worked out that way. It will not. There's no app for it. The web browser doesn't work at all from what I can gather to this point. So I've been stuck reading it on the iPhone. Normally in the past, by the way, this is how we've done almost all of our Marvel books this year. In fact, I would say this is how I've done all the Marvel books this year. I've read them all on my phone. That includes stuff like The Punisher by Garth Ennis. What else have we done from Marvel this year, Nick? I don't even remember.
Oh, I don't remember, honestly. I'm sure I could think of something if I tried.
Thor, Walt Simonson.
Yep. That was definitely a long book, or a Marvel Unlimited. I read that on my phone as well. So none of these gave me any problems. I read them very easily and had no issues getting through them. This book in particular gave me issues because I found myself, first of all, there's two things at play here. Number one is the artist of this particular run, George Perez, is known for his extreme amount of detail. we're talking the artist who is his claim to fame, really, is the fact that he can draw hundreds of characters, literally hundreds of characters on a single comic book page in a way that no one else can. So there's a lot of detail in all these pages. And me, I like to read pages multiple times to make sure I'm getting everything in context, make sure I'm getting the details of everything, that I'm not missing something essential to the story. And in particular, doing this show so that I don't miss something essential to the story and then have Nick make fun of me for it. So I do that, and that's how I read. So anyway, the problem here is I found myself having to constantly rotate my phone between landscape and portrait mode, because while technically if I left the phone in landscape mode I could read the comics, it would go from gigantic blown up text to very, very small text, and that was driving me nuts. So it was kind of a pick my poison where I'm constantly tilting my phone up, tilting it to the side, and back up again. This took a long time to do. It was honestly a frustrating reading experience for me. So as a result, we're not doing the 11 issues that are collected in the actual Avengers Assemble. That's not to say we won't do the following 5 issues at a point in the future, plus the annual that concludes the Squadron Supreme story that we'll talk about in a little bit. But we're only doing the first 6 issues of this run, which I think is a legitimate number because, as we'll talk about, there is a cutoff. There's a 2-part story arc that ends it here and is not picked up in the main title. And also 6 is about the number that you get in most trade volumes these days. So I will own that. This is not Nick's fault that we're only doing 6 issues instead of 11. So if there's some greater context that we're missing, hopefully we'll pick it up in the future when we do when we get back to this series. Because I definitely want to get to the classic Ultron story that comes later. That's considered the ultimate and best Ultron story ever made.
Yeah, then you just listened, folks, to the last 5 minutes for Greg justify why we're only doing 6 issues, attempt to explain himself. But I actually got a few listener questions on this decision to cut from 11 to 6, Greg. So I'm gonna fire them off at you here real quick.
Oh, before we get to this, were these listener questions that came in through one of the many private, secret Facebook message groups designed to talk shit about people that aren't in them?
Only one of them came from that.
Ah, okay, awesome.
Okay, so listener Flaniel Fluke wants to know what was it like the first time you read Watchmen, and how was that year of your life?
That 2 years of my life was extremely powerful and important. It was the transition from boyhood to manhood. I grew not 1 but 3 testicles in the course of that time, and I was already in my mid-20s, so that was certainly a harrowing experience.
Listener Dick Nuke wants to know, is the real reason you don't want to read Tom King's Batman is because you'll probably die before it's ever you're able to finish it?
There's a good chance of that, yes. There's a good chance I won't make it through the year. So much less make it through the decade it would take me to read just 5 issues of Tom King's dialogue-heavy Batman.
And finally, listener Wad Tebber wants to know, do you read stop signs twice and mouth the words out loud whenever you come to a stop sign in your car?
Yes.
Okay. Those are the listener questions I solicited, so.
All right, excellent. Well, the good news, Nick, is I have a feeling that after this podcast, there's going to be a brand new secret Facebook chat started just to talk about the two of us.
Yes, I'm sure there already is one of those, by the way. They'll just...
yeah, there already is. Yeah, no doubt.
I have no issues with that.
But we will soon be getting subtweeted as well, so...
Oh, boy. It won't be that sub. I mean, come on. The people who would subtweet about us, you know.
That's true.
It'd be pretty transparent, I would think.
More super tweeting.
Yeah, this is probably not going to be the most popular Longbook hunt we've ever done in regards to our typical Place to Be Nation comics contingent, because we have a couple of hardcore fans of this run who should probably just go ahead and turn the podcast off right now, if we're being honest. Like, you know, it was all right, I guess. It was okay.
Well, let's get into it then.
Okay.
So this run of comics is, of course, Kurt Busiek, George Perez, 1998. Let's set the table, and I will do my best to do this, Nick.
Oh, God.
Set the table for where we're at in the Marvel Universe in 1998.
Okay.
As I understand it.
Onslaught happened, as they remind us.
Onslaught, yes. So Onslaught happens, and the Avengers and the Fantastic Four and other characters, I believe, are sucked into the Onslaught creature of some kind in that story, seemingly deceased, seemingly wiped off of the plane of existence. But, in fact, they are alive in the pocket universe of one Franklin Richards, of course, the son of Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman. So, Avengers...
Okay, sorry, we're going to get down this rabbit hole. We might as well go ahead and stop it. So I was not reading comics at the time, and I have not heard many things about the 90s that inspire me to go back and read a ton of stuff from the 90s, especially from like the mid-90s Marvel. So correct me if I'm wrong, though. My understanding of this is that Onslaught happens and Franklin Richards saves all the heroes and puts them in a pocket universe. And isn't there like a year of stories that take place in the pocket universe?
Yes.
So that's Heroes Reborn.
Heroes Reborn.
And
Heroes Reborn, I believe, is the only time that Marvel has ever actually outsourced its primary comics publication. Because what they did was they took... I'm trying to remember how they split it. I can't remember exactly how they split it, but they took Rob Liefeld's publishing company and Jim Lee's publishing company, and they let them basically take over production of their titles for a year, essentially. And so what you had was you had Jim Lee doing Fantastic Four and Iron Man, I believe, and you had Rob Liefeld famously doing Captain America and something else. The Avengers, I believe. Actually, I pulled it up right here. Yes, Rob Liefeld took over. His Extreme Studios took the reins of Avengers and Captain America, while Jim Lee took on Fantastic Four and Iron Man. This was supposed to be, I guess, a year of stories here. Mostly was, it seems. And then, once that ended, they decided they needed to bring back their characters in a bigger, badder fashion than what they had before. But bring them back to their old glory, away from some of the 90s
Okay, and that was Heroes Return.
That was Heroes Return.
So that's the difference between Heroes Reborn and Heroes Return.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So the Heroes Return and Heroes Return, appropriately enough, and kind of theoretically,
and this
anyway.
Is right after that, apparently, right?
Right, exactly, right after that.
Okay.
And they come back to their more familiar histories. And famously, if you recall, Iron Man had been a teenage boy around this time, a teenage version of Tony Stark, I believe, before Heroes Reborn. And then in Heroes Reborn, he's more of the traditional Iron Man, but changed a little bit. So apparently it says here on this thing I'm looking at that Bruce Banner and the Hulk were merged back together into one singular being, and the returned Anthony Stark possesses the memories of both the original and the teenage Anthony Stark, and thus considers himself to be both of them. So there you have that. And at this point, it becomes necessary to relaunch the Avengers, and kind of, well, as the old song goes, Nick, start back at one. You like that? Little Brian McKnight?
That was pretty good.
No. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. You'll hear more of that at Redneck Karaoke in just a few days.
No, you won't. Actually, never mind. There was a country version. There was a country cover.
There was a country version.
Yes.
There was a country version of every R&B song in the 90s and vice versa.
So you're allowed to have that at Redneck Karaoke. I was about to say, if it were, the Brian McKnight version, however, will not be allowed. It will be the whoever the guy was that covered it version, of course.
Let's just say John Michael Montgomery.
Are we just assuming that it was him?
I don't know that it was him, but I want to feel like it was. Like I feel like I would feel better if it were John Michael Montgomery.
Mark Wills.
Who the hell is Mark Wills?
Well, I don't rightly know that answer. Mark Wills. Let's see here. Mark Wills, of course. Oh, Oh, Jacob's Ladder. You know that song, Jacob's Ladder? No? All right. Good talk.
For a moment, I thought you were referring to Mark Colley, who did that awesome song for the Punisher soundtrack.
Nope.
But nope, that's not him.
Oh,
anyway.
19-something, you remember that song?
No. Absolutely
if
not.
you heard it, you'd know it.
In any event.
I Do? That song? No? All right.
In any event.
Don't Laugh at Me? That song? Which is your theme song for this episode, I think?
That's pretty good. All right. So, to do this relaunch of the Avengers, they want to...
Other Mark Will songs?
No more Mark Will songs. Damn, I've had it with the Mark Wills. You're beating it into the ground. So here comes 1998. So a year before, I believe this, Grant Morrison had relaunched JLA very famously. DC wanted to get Justice League back to the forefront and re-envision it as the Big Seven, as the center point of the DC universe. And they did that successfully. It was DC's most successful book at this time. So that's going on at DC. Marvel wants to answer with its own definitive take on the Avengers and relaunch on the Avengers. So they do this. To do this, they call upon writer Kurt Busiek, who was extremely hot at this time. I believe he was doing Astro City already, if I'm not mistaken. And he was known, particularly in Marvel circles, for the series Marvels with Alex Ross from 1993,
yes.
Which was considered a landmark of its time. And the artist they drew from was the legendary, mostly DC, but had done a lot of Marvel work too, artist George Perez, known, of course, for his work with Marv Wolfman in New Teen Titans, for his work on Crisis on Infinite Earths, which you can hear all about from the illustrious manager Todd Weber and our good friend Russell Sellers on Russell's upcoming DC Crisis project. I forget the exact title of it, but I think that's Crisis Management, and that's coming your way soon. If not, by the time you're already listening to this. And a litany of things. He also began work on the Infinity Gauntlet before being replaced by Ron Lim. Mm-hmm. So George Perez, one of the all-time greats in comics, was put together with Kurt Busiek to draw this. So there you have it. And we're picking things up right when the Avengers are coming back after the Heroes Return event. They've got to figure out what to do. They're just getting their bearings. There are approximately and seemingly in the neighborhood of 300 Avengers at this time. I
believe the gimmick was that every Avenger ever was going to be featured, at least initially, in this story. Yes.
Think of, for those who may be modern fans, think of Justice League Unlimited as a concept, where you've got an infinite number of potential Avengers members here. So this includes everyone from famous characters like Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, the Hulk, Ant-Man and the Wasp, your basic movie characters that you're familiar with, to characters as obscure as those that we talked about on our comics history episode with Tim Capel a few weeks ago, such as the Swordsman and Magdalene and Cersei and people like that. So we've got just a cavalcade of characters in this book, and the original Avengers are coming together, trying to pare down membership, figure out who belongs, who doesn't belong. But before they can even do that, they are the subjects of attacks around the globe. Former Avengers are all being attacked by the creatures, some from different realms in the Asgardian mythology. So, and that sets us up for our status quo in this book, where the Avengers this is really two story arcs. Would you say here, Nick, that we're talking about here?
Well, kind of two in a one shot, yeah.
Yep. So the first one revolves around an attack by Morgan Le Fay and Mordred, her nephew, I believe. Is that correct, Nick?
Nephew or son?
I think it's a nephew.
I don't know.
And And Morgan Le Fay.
You can tell how close we were paying attention.
Morgan Le Fay. Well, no, it's just been a couple weeks since I read that part, but Morgan Le Fay is a public use character. She's used in DC and Marvel. Is in the same exact role, actually. Both companies use her as a villain who comes in and uses magic to try to take over the world, essentially. Her nephew Mordred is along the same lines, but a little bit different in Marvel than he is in DC. I think DC uses him more of like a kid kind of version, and he's certainly a grown man here in this story. And a lot of what you'll find, this is the first that you're going to see in several examples in this book, of a lot of references to Avengers history. Apparently they battled Morgan Le Fay back in the 60s or 70s at some point. And it's referred to. I don't feel like it's necessary that you have read that to get it, because I certainly got it. I understood the comic, even if I didn't really appreciate, I guess, what they were going for with bringing her back. And they do this several times, referencing old villains, old characters from, at this point, was 98, so this would have been more than 30 years of Avengers history behind it. And it's very much a book, I think, designed for Avengers fans, right, Nick? Designed for people that are you have absorbed in Marvel comics.
All these characters who are popping up, and the reference is made that they've all been Avengers at one time or another. But really, the only people who are going to get any value out of that are the people who remember them being Avengers. You know what I mean? And for me personally, I'm just sitting there going, man, this is, there's a certain charm to seeing, characters like D-Man, who they use for some funny visual gags, or, Beast or whoever. But, you get down into the Magdalens and Swordsmans and
Moondragon,
Justices and Moondragons and Vance Astrolux or whatever Vance Astroglide.
I think that is Justice, actually.
I'm going to call him Vance Astroglide of the world, and it just like, at a certain point, I'm experiencing character overload for somebody who doesn't know much about these characters. So it's not the intended effect. Like, I feel like this book requires something of at the very least, an associate's degree in Avengers history, and I have none. I have not even a GED in Avengers history. So this was a little bewildering for me, at least early on.
I have to agree with you on that, Nick. It was the same way for me, and I was trying my best to brace, and that's really why I wanted to have Tim on before we got to this, because Tim does have that, at the very least, associates, if not a graduate degree in Avengers history, and because I just, the first issue of this run was just almost overwhelming to me.
Yes.
Because there are, and you can imagine with
incomprehensible, not because it's badly written, but incomprehensible because we don't know who any of these characters are.
And there are beats that happen that are supposed to mean something that don't mean anything to me because I don't understand the context.
Right.
I think it's a book that is both of its time and a simultaneous celebration of the past.
Right.
But for those who have never encountered it before, 20 years hence, it's much harder to grasp, I think, because it's not meant. It's not a book. I don't think that is. At least these early issues are not necessarily intended to be read for the first time 20 years later. Is that fair to say?
No, I would agree with that. I think what I was thinking of was it seems like a book done through the 90s lens, but yet written kind of in the 70s style and drawn kind of in the 80s style.
Yes.
And so it's like this amalgam of 3 decades. And for someone who doesn't have a great deal of nostalgia for any of those 3 decades, it leaves me feeling a bit more hollow than I suspect it does for many others,
And I have a great nostalgia for those decades, but more for the DC side because of my upbringing. So, and if it was Marvel, I would be all about the X-Men of those decades. But again, Avengers, as I've talked about on the show before, is a big blind spot for me.
Right. But I think part of this, one of the story's failings, in my opinion, is this came about at a time when Marvel wasn't exactly setting the world on fire, in terms of sales. And I feel like it probably could have gone out of its way to be at least a bit more accessible, and it didn't. And I'm interested to see, it'll be years from now if we even get that far, but I am interested to see how this holds up if and when we get to it on Marvel Age, just because I'll have gone through the decades leading up to it, and maybe my perception of it completely changes. But these first 3 issues, man, they were a struggle to read, honestly. Like, not just from the standpoint of not understanding who the characters were, but also because I didn't understand who a lot of these characters were, I didn't really care,
Yeah.
That was my issue. And also, like, even on Justice League, which we've verbally filleted the Justice League animated series to death at this point. I would say if you sat down and ranked every single episode of Justice League, I would be willing to bet there's probably like 4 or 5 Morgan or Mordred Le Fay episodes in the bottom 10.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like,
absolutely.
And yes, I understand these are different. It's a different version of the character in a different universe with different connections.
And everybody's got different tastes.
But like this whole medieval Avengers brainwash time travel thing with all these characters and people I don't care about, and then apparently there's this big dramatic moment with Wonder Man. I don't know who the fuck Wonder Man is. I know Tim tried to explain him to me, but then he pops up all giant and shit. I don't care. I guess is the number one, like the overwhelming thing I can say about it.
I believe you mean Simon Wonderman.
Sure, Simon Wonderman. Simon, go fuck yourself.
Good Lord. He's not done anything to you.
I just didn't. I'm sorry, man. Like the first 3 issues were. And it's not just that they were uninteresting to me or that I was confused by them at times. There were also some moments where I understand they were kind of being written through that 60s, 70s style influence, but listen, and this is, I'm going to say this, and I fully admit it's a flaw about me rather than it is a flaw about the character, because I'm the same way with Superman, because whenever Superman opens up his mouth to say some flowery, inspirational bullshit, I find myself rolling my eyes and wanting to stop reading. And Captain America has like 3 of those moments in the first 3 issues where he's just going to say something that's full of golly hoka horse shit that I don't care about.
Perish forbid.
Oh my god, that's Hawkeye though. That wasn't even Cap. Caps, you are all Avengers. You know what that means. You know how that feels. You have to remember that deep down inside. Like, what? Shut the fuck up. Move on.
I will say, Cap does seem like he should have been played by John Cena in this iteration of the Avengers.
This is like square-jawed,
listen here, mister.
Good old-fashioned slice of Americana.
Yeah, and the Superman comparison is apt, and I think that's fair. So to you're touching upon a lot.
I understand that, like everybody says Captain America and Superman just kind of have to be the best person, and while I don't disagree with that, yes. I think that you have to make them a little bit more interesting than just, well, they're just the best person. They do the right thing all the time.
I've got to me what was a worse example of that, and I'll get to him in just a second.
Okay.
But and I think perhaps who I'm referring to, but you've touched upon so many different things here that I want to get to, because we are dividing this up in a way that we usually don't. Usually we tackle the entire book at once, but I think we have to do this kind of story by story, because I did think that this got better as it went along. The stuff that comes after this Morgan Le Fay stuff is more interesting. So a lot of it comes down to taste. I'm with Nick on this. I was not interested particularly in those Morgan Le Fay episodes of Justice League. I don't find her interesting. I don't find medieval times an interesting setting for comics. I know people disagree with that because of the popularity of characters like Shining Knight, for instance, over at DC, Black Knight, any character with Knight in the name, essentially. But for me, it's just thought, maybe you take those and put them in modern times. It's fun. It's not a time period that makes for compelling comics for me. So, or at least with superheroes. So that's already a strike against it. Time travel, hit or miss in comics. It can be great. In this case, wasn't interesting to me. Taking the Avengers and putting them in what I will give Kurt Busiek credit for this. The names that he came up with were just outlandish enough to work and did make me chuckle a few times. That was good. But again, it just felt like a concept that I would have preferred to be the one-shot instead of the 3-part issue. And again, there's all these characters with alternate names that I wasn't even 100% sure what their real names were.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, well, this is not a real example, but here's Fly by the Mist. Who the hell is that supposed to be? And then it ends up being freaking, I don't know. What the hell? Living Laser or some shit.
Living Lightning.
Living Lightning, whatever. So, who we talked about on this very show. So, it's just, there's all these characters, and I understand that was the premise, but maybe that's not the best way to kick things off. I don't know. And, I thought the to your point also, and this is an issue that's kind of throughout the entire thing for me, but less so as it goes on. And I'm not saying that it's even necessarily a flaw of Kurt Busiek. It's just he was trying to evoke an era of the Avengers. He was trying to evoke a classic, 70s, 80s approach to the Avengers. And as a result, you get a very, very inspirational Captain America, which I'm not like Nick in terms of I'm one of those people that I believe that there has to be a place for that in comics, and there has to be the Cap and Superman have to serve that role because comics are supposed to make you inspire you and things like that. But I guess my point with it is it definitely needs to be an aspect of their character. It doesn't need to be their entire character. And I felt like here that was Captain America's entire character. And it's a lot of one of my pet peeves, which is every other character telling you how inspirational Captain America is, and all he's doing is just spouting cliches.
Are you suggesting that Captain America could eventually one day be played by Andrew Lincoln?
I'm saying that if you're making a movie about the 1998 Avengers and John Cena's busy doing something else, I think Andrew Lincoln wouldn't be a bad choice, because then he's got the experience, quite frankly, with plans, with being told that his plans are good and things like that. Even to the situation of, at times, which this isn't a later story, but I'm going to go ahead and say it, there are times in this where Captain America was just insufferable to me. For instance, when he's just shouting at other characters to do what he told them to do, damn it. When there really wasn't a meeting at the beginning that determined that Cap was the leader of the team. So anyway, we'll get to that in a minute with his conflict with Hawkeye. But so you get a lot of that. You get a lot of dialogue that's very, classically inspired, shall we say, expository, things like that. You get. I'll go ahead and bring up Iron Man, which is the character I was talking about a minute ago. To me, even worse than Cap here, because Cap's Cap. Cap is the traditional stereotype that you would have that I had in my mind for a long time of Captain America before the movies kind of changed my stance on him significantly. But I just, because I never read a lot of Captain America comics growing up, and I always assumed that he would sound a certain way, and that's how he's presented here, and that's fine. What I was both saddened and excited by is that this comic reaffirmed my memories from childhood, because I've been going around for a long time, Nick, you and I both, and others here at Place to Be Nation Comics, Ben Morse included, and we've been spouting about how Iron Man is traditionally an extremely boring character, and that Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal largely salvaged this inexplicably long-lasting completely uninteresting character.
Well, the character lasts so long because it's visually appealing. Because, the idea of it is really cool. It's the problem is the man himself inside the armor was never
Tony Stark was not interesting
until he was an alcoholic, and then he was interesting. Then they did away with that, and then he was no longer interesting.
Back to not being interesting,
yes.
Right? And then he developed. Wouldn't you know it? By God, Nick, he developed a sense of humor, which could do a lot of these characters a little bit of good.
Yes.
So Iron Man here is just the most useless character outside of fight scenes. I don't know that there's a single memorable line that he has in any of this entire 6-issue sequence. It's just you could have replaced him with Captain America, and either one of them could have delivered the same lines. It's just, I'm like, what? How was this character a thing at this point? And how has he not been replaced by someone more interesting? Because it's a character who just states the obvious, first of all. Mm-hmm. Well, Cap, I'm scanning the room and there's nothing in here. Golly, Cap, what's going on with you? The only interesting aspect here to Iron Man is that he is one of the few that can't – he's one of the ones that is most staunchly absorbed into the fantasy that Morgan Le Fay puts them in because he's so egocentric. Mm-hmm. But again, they tell you this, and they don't show you him being egocentric any other time in the book.
And then later on, he's also one of the people who kind of has an inkling of what's going on with Carol Danvers.
True. But again, he's just good guy Tony Stark who just does the right thing and says the right thing and, doesn't have a distinctive voice, doesn't do anything or say anything to distinguish himself from the other members of the group. Just very boring and very uninteresting. So that's another issue here in these early issues. The one exception to what we're saying right now, I thought, in this opening arc was Thor is awesome.
Yes.
Every time he appears, Busiek excels at writing that over-the-top Shakespearean dialogue.
Right, because Thor is a character that is often served by going over the top, and it doesn't feel abrasive to me. It doesn't put me off in the way that an over-the-top version of Captain America or what have you does. So Thor feels native. It feels comfortable for me in a way that these other characters do not.
Yeah, he's using a lot of thine and thou and has.
And even the lettering. I actually really like the lettering, how all of his lettering is different to kind of just, one, his dialogue itself is telling you how different he's speaking, but by having a different style of lettering, it's just, cementing that home to the reader through a visual cue. So big ups there on the lettering.
Absolutely. And so you also, at the same time that all this Morgan Le Fay stuff's going on, she takes the Avengers and puts them in roles as medieval protectors, and they have to kind of work their way out of it. Only Cap is able to get out of it because of his strength of will.
I did find it funny how Mordred was essentially playing the role of Scott Evil, where he's like, why don't we just kill him? I've got a gun in my room.
That was good. And then Morgan's just like, you just don't get it, do you? I'm going to place them into an easily escapable trap, walk away, and assume everything goes to plan. What?
That's pretty much what she does.
And then she's so upset when it happens that she renders Mordred into a mute.
And Mordred's like, hey, man, this is what I told you was going to happen.
So, all that being said, you also have a subplot going on and this lasts throughout the 6 issues, and I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I believe this was the opening salvo to what would lead to Scarlet Witch gaining the powers that would allow the Avengers Disassembled story to happen years and years later. Because Scarlet Witch, up to this point, was not presented to the best of my knowledge, as a mega powerful character. And here she is starting to... They're hinting around at things. Scarlet Witch is now this giant hub of magic that is bridging the magic of the old world with the magic of Morgan Le Fay. And she is, in the process of trying to escape, she ends up summoning Simon Wonderman, who we mentioned a minute ago, a.k.a. Wonder Man. And he has been dead for some time from before Onslaught. And somehow she's able to bring him back, but only when she wants to, and then he disappears. And he, of course, as Tim went over on our show, he is ionic, made of ionic energy, the power of ions. And I am talking about Kyle Rayner, baby. And so he shows up in a really cool scene at the end of issue 2. Well, I thought it was a cool scene anyway, because he looks cool visually, and helps turn the tide of their battle against Morgan Le Fay in the following issue. You get all these different. You get a battle of Avengers against themselves, where Cap and his group that figures things out, which I think is him and Hawkeye and Monica Rambeau, who I don't know anything about either, but I know it was Captain Marvel at one time. And here she's Photon, maybe,
sure,
like that. Pulsar, something like that.
Whatever you say, sir. I'll go with that.
She's there, Hawkeye, who I've already mentioned, and a few others, and they go up against
Forbid.
Perish Forbid, and Quasar, yes.
Quasar,
don't want to leave out Quasar. He's there too, and he helps them against and Thor as well helps them against Iron Man and a group of the other dozens of Avengers, and they overcome them and all that stuff. But like it's just not a very interesting story to me. I agree, Nick. But we haven't mentioned yet, or should we save this till the end to talk about Perez? But I just want to say we haven't mentioned the art at all because the art is spectacular.
No, the art is the saving grace of this. Like, if the art weren't as good as it is, particularly on the big splash pages and those kind of pages where you can get lost in detail the way Greg loves to do, if it weren't for those, I would. I don't know what my opinion on this would be, because like as it stands, I've had a lot of negative things to say, and yet my overall impression of it, I sit here and go, well, it was okay, I guess, and like, I just based on the first 6 issues, I kind of think it's massively overrated given the word of mouth I've been given, but I'm also not opposed to the idea of reading more because it definitely picked up steam as it went along. I thought. Yeah,
I would pretty much share those sentiments. I think Perez's art here is outstanding, and
it is the selling point. It's the selling point of the story.
We're going to talk about some of the designs of the characters here, which are very some of them are of their time, some of them are throwbacks. But we'll get to that later on. But just his I talked about constantly having to rotate my phone. The reason for that is the panel layouts are really creative here. Perez does not settle into any kind of set formula of how he's laying things out. So he does vertical panels, horizontal panels, splash pages, those beautiful splash pages with dozens of characters on them. And one of the great compliments about George Perez that I was talking with someone earlier today about actually is his ability to draw all these different characters and make every one of them look distinct from one another, which is really difficult. As much as I mean, some of my favorite artists, and I'll even throw Jim Lee's name out there, who's my all-time favorite comic book artist. I will agree with some of his critics that he is guilty at times of drawing a lot of his male and female characters to look similar to one another at times in group settings. And that's never the case with George Perez. Everyone here looks different from one another. Even characters who look damn near the same when they take their masks off, like Hawkeye and Captain America.
Yes.
Both blonde hair, blue-eyed, short hair, all that stuff. But he draws everyone to have distinct characteristics that separate them from the pack, which I think is just awesome. And yeah, just great art. Anything about the art that you wanted to mention other than the character designs that we'll talk about later?
No, it's great. I mean, the level of detail, I mean, it's just phenomenal. It is perhaps, Perez is, has always been kind of referred to as perhaps the best of that 80s style, that big, bombastic, colorful, over-the-top style. Just outstanding.
Definitely. So let's move on to the one shot that kind of bridges these two arcs. So once they get done with Morgan Le Fay, then it's time for them to finally sit down and pick out who the Avengers are going to be. And this actually ended up being my favorite issue of the 6.
Yes, mine as well.
I thought there was a lot going on here, which is interesting because it's not an action issue. It's a if you stop me if you've heard Nick and I praise this kind of comic before, it's an issue of people sitting at a table talking.
Yes.
So
and it's a very specific reference to Avengers 16, I think, where they shake up the lineup and they're having to make determinations on who's going to comprise the new Avengers, down to the press assembled outside Avengers Mansion waiting to hear what the official announcement is. So it feels, and this is an example of me having a little bit of Avengers knowledge and it enhancing my enjoyment of this issue because it's very clear what they were trying to do.
Yeah, because I didn't get that at all because I've never read that, so I didn't pick up on that. But yeah, I still love the issue. So yeah, I thought this was the best, And we didn't mention in the first part the scene that we talked about earlier on the phone where Spider-Man just up and leaves. Basically, all the Avengers are gathered to go and figure out what's causing these attacks, and then on all these other former Avengers. And then Spider-Man sees all these people there. He's like, "Can I just not be here?" To which Cap's like, "Fair enough." which leads to a situation involving the Swordsman and the Sandman, but then that's getting way into the weeds. So, but yeah, so this issue, this one-off issue here. They're sorting through all these hundreds of Avengers, and they do very cleverly. They set up a single page where, actually, it's a 2-page fold-out, actually, where a bunch of these characters are taken off the board. They say Sandman is going back to work for Silver Sable International, because of course he was working for Silver Sable International. Everybody knows that. Mm-hmm. And Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, is off to Colorado to take care of her baby, which she had and I was aware of. Mm-hmm. And all these other characters, like 10 other characters or something that are kind of taken off the board.
Darkhawk is going back to be a local hero.
Oh, Darkhawk wants to be in Queens because Queens doesn't have enough heroes. So he's going to go there and do his thing. And he's a favorite of mine, as you know, Nick. I don't know anything about Darkhawk other than what we talked about on that episode, but I'm a sucker for the 90s, and he has a distinctly 90s name. So
he was a duck, as I understand it, that wore a hat and fought crime.
Pat Morita was Japanese, not Chinese.
Well.
Anyway, so they're narrowing down all these characters, and Justice, and you're introduced to these not new characters, but non-traditional Avengers. Justice and Firestar, right? Who was a character from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends in the early 80s. I know that. Or I think I know that.
And who in the Ultimate Universe was Liz Allen.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So Firestar and Justice are an item, apparently, and they're friends with Rage. And
that's Vance Astroglide, correct?
Yes, Vance AstroTurf. Mm-hmm. And of course, they are friends with Rage, and they're all former not New Mutants, New Warriors, I think. So they're doing their thing, and Justice, who is Vance Astroglide, Vic Witz, wants
mm-hmm.
to become an Avenger really bad because he's a fanboy. He's like the snapper car of the Avengers, if you will, and really wants to be one of them. Meanwhile, Firestar doesn't really care. She doesn't really care to be an Avenger, and in the meantime, other characters are saying they don't care to be Avengers. Swordsman and Magdalene say they're not of this world. They don't really want to be a part of it. Machine Man tells them that his role is to observe humanity, and so he's not going to become an Avenger, but he'll be there if they need him.
Mm-hmm. Machine Man, who I know a lot about that character. He's a machine who's also a man.
Well, as you know, if you kill the man, all that's left is the machine.
And if you kill the machine, all that's left is the man.
Which is the man, right. If you kill them both, then there's nothing left.
Nothing left. And if you only kill half of them each, then there's half a Machine Man left.
Right. Or just a regular, half a machine and half a man would make it, well, that would be an interesting conundrum nonetheless.
The math is something.
It's something. But, so they're going around and they're arguing back and forth about who's going to be part of the team. What's his gosh dang name? What's the Ant-Man's frickin' name? Hank Pym. There we go. Pym particles. Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne Pym.
They were married, but now they're not, so she's back to Van Dyne.
Yeah, so they want to go off and do their thing on their own. They don't want to be part of the Avengers.
They want to go have sex, yes.
They want a bone. Mm-hmm. By the way, Janet is entertaining here. I like her personality. She's fun to listen to, or read, rather. And a complete opposite of her husband, who's a stick in the mud and uninteresting as hell. Mm-hmm. Which, as I understand it, is in keeping with tradition.
It is, yes. That is accurate. You said it perfect, Bubba.
So she's fun and bubbly and oddly a little flirty at times in the story here. And so they're off the board. Cap wants to stay. Tony wants to stay. Thor wants to stay. So there's your core three. And then they build around them. And they mutually agree that Hawkeye is going to be part of the team, although he's impatient, waiting on them to make their decision. Feels like he should be part of it because he's been an Avenger so long. And they also want Carol Danvers, who, it's introduced in this issue, is going through problems of her own because she... Okay. When this story starts, when the Avengers relaunch starts, Carol Danvers is known as Binary. And she turns into this flaming red energy being. Well, for some reason, her powers go on the fritz. And as Beast explains to her, she can no longer become binary, and her powers are useless.
Well, not useless. He just says,
useless, but
you went from being like amazingly powerful to still massively powerful, but
right.
she's not as powerful as she was.
And for some reason, she doesn't want to tell the other Avengers. She doesn't want to risk not being added back to the team, or so she says. She also is eyeing a bottle of liquor at one point, and she and Tony have words. And Tony actually advises Cap not to add her to the team, but when Cap presses him for a reason, he refuses to give it, and so everybody else just outvotes him, including Thor getting mighty defensive for old Carol. I would not have use such slander against her.
Your Thor, that was a very unique accent you busted out for it.
I would not...
Bane? Is Thor Bane?
I regard I would not have you live words against her. I don't know what the hell that came from. Where the hell that came from. Anyway, so Thor says what he says, and they go about their business. And then they're trying to fill that last spot on the team. They're trying to figure out, they've got Captain Marvel, who's going to be known as not back then she wasn't Captain Marvel. She was Miss Marvel, and she was Binary. Now she's going to be Warbird. And you've got Cap, and you've got Iron Man, you've got Thor. You've got the Scarlet Witch and the Vision. Forgot to mention them. Vision, who is not intact right now because his body was destroyed in the work in Le Fay.
He got broken in half.
He was broken.
God is my witness. He was broken right in half.
Absolutely. And so he's got a spirit version of himself that is, or a hologram version that is floating around and kind of doing monitor duty, sort of like the Martian Manhunter role in the Justice League cartoon. So
he can't do anything physical. He just, because he's a hologram. You see,
he's a hologram, for God's sake. And then so they're trying to fill the last role on the team, and Hawkeye comes in and says, "By God, I got these two people. You got to add them." Justice and Firestar. They took down Whirlwind. Because this whole thing starts, by the way, we didn't mention that. The beginning of this issue is cool because Whirlwind is robbing a bank, and then he's confronted by roughly a dozen Avengers.
Yes.
Stop him from robbing the bank, but they all get in each other's way, and he gets away.
Yes, all the Avengers have a slapstick scenario where they're just tripping over each other and hitting each other.
Which I thought was kind of neat. I thought that was a good scene. And again, establish the issues of why they would need to pare it down. Because you think to yourself, why not just have a bunch of Avengers? Well, they kind of get into that. There's less oversight, less control, less planning, things like that. Oh, and I do want to call out one of my favorite scenes, maybe my favorite scene, actually, in the 6 issues, where they're sitting around the table, and they're trying to figure out who to add to the team. And Cap goes, "What about U.S. Agent?" And then there's that panel of everyone just sternly staring at Cap. And then then there's a beat, and the next panel is Janet saying, "So where's Hawkeye?" Poor U.S. Agent, left to the wind. And so Hawkeye says, "You got to let these people on." Cap says, "Nope, we're capping the team. We only want one more member, and that spot's yours." And finally, Hawkeye talks Cap into adding them as reserve members of the Avengers. And it's a really good issue. It sets up the status quo moving forward. I thought it was a much more effective introductory issue than the actual issue number 1 they had. Would you agree?
Completely agreed. This one issue was better than either the 3-parter that preceded it, and, in my opinion, better than the 2-parter that followed it.
Agreed. We got a lot of character introductions out of the way. This did a better job of explaining who was who, what roles they served on the team, the concept of and I don't think you needed the previous story to get across the every Avenger everything. They kind of do that in this one issue. Kind because there's another thing about here that I want to bring up while I'm thinking about it, because we're not going to see this character pop up again, but Busiek writes these characters in a very specific way, tied to a certain era. And as it was explained to me, his Beast is written this way because Steve Englehart wrote Beast like this in his Avengers days. And I am not used to Beast sounding like this.
No.
He does not talk like the intellectual, professorial type that we're used to from the X-Men cartoon or the X-Men books of the 90s. He talks more like a, I don't know, what would you say, Nick? Like a hippie from California in the 70s or something? I don't know.
I don't even know what he talks like. No version of Beast that I'm familiar with. But again, I'm a novice when it comes to the Avengers and to the X-Men, so I don't know that I'm the most, the person who needs to be commenting on Beast.
And I'm only an expert on not even an expert, but I'm only super familiar with a very specific time frame of the X-Men. But it really threw me off, and I can imagine it would have thrown off someone who was also reading Beast in an X-Men comic at that time. So that was odd, and there's instances like that of characters that sound a specific way. You're also picking up the years-long thread of Scarlet Witch and Vision and their on-again, off-again relationship. In this case, off-again. But a lot of that's going on in the background. So we move on from the one-shot, and then we close things out in this edition with a two-part story that pits the Avengers against the Squadron Supreme, another group of characters about which I know very little, except that they are a pretty clear Justice League analog that was invented in the 80s by Mark Grunwald. I know that much. And I don't know the exact premise of how they come to Earth. They were on their own Earth, and at some point they ended up on the main Marvel Earth. And at some point, Cap actually reminds them in probably easily the best Cap scene in the whole thing, other than that U.S. agent moment, where Cap kind of reminds them that they've been mind controlled 2 or 3 times already. But they live in this lab, Project Pegasus, and they show up and they're claiming that the Avengers that we know and love are fakes, that the real Avengers died in Onslaught, and whoever this is that has come back has taken their place and are not the real Avengers, which we, as a reading audience, have the knowledge that they are the real Avengers, but here comes Squadron Supreme claiming that they're not, which is a really compelling setup in that I thought Squadron Supreme were villains when they showed up. I don't know about you, Nick, but I just assumed it was some villain team that was lying about the Avengers. Come to find out, mind control.
Yeah, I know a little bit about Squadron Supreme because they had a crossover with the Ultimate Universe at one point, so that's the only reason I was aware of them. So I knew they weren't villains. I knew they were just alternate universe weird people. Best way I can describe it.
Is there any better member of the Squadron Supreme than the Shape?
The Wizard.
Now, the Wizard's fine.
Well, his name is the Whizzer, Greg.
The Whizzer.
For God's sake.
Who at first I thought was the Batman analog, but then I came to realize was the Flash analog because he wore black. So I was like, oh, it must be the Batman analog, but nope. Yes, the Shape is great because the Shape is an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And I always like idiot characters. So the Squadron Supreme show up, and they're making this accusation. Here's another thing about this that probably would have made this work even better for us, Nick. Kurt Busiek or Busiek, or however the hell you say it, in the build-up to Avengers #1, in the prior year maybe, had already done a book and a concept called Thunderbolts.
Mm.
And as I have read about it on the internet today, Thunderbolts #1 had the gimmick, and a very successful gimmick, of apparently, and Marvel apparently did not spoil this or reveal it at all in advance. Imagine that. Where you pick up the first issue, and it seems like it's a new superhero team to take place of the Avengers, who of course are gone and doing the Heroes Reborn thing. Well, Thunderbolts #1, you read the whole issue, thinking that this is your new superhero team, and only on the last page of the issue do you find out that it is the Masters of Evil in disguise as these Thunderbolt characters. So, I would imagine, Nick, that perhaps in 1998, there were readers, when the Squadron Supreme shows up and makes these accusations about the Avengers, that perhaps wonders, oh, wow, are they going to pull the wool over our eyes again and reveal that these are like Skrulls in disguise or something? Or perhaps the Squadron Supreme are Skrulls. Who knows? Anyone could be a Skrull, Nick, as you know.
Anyone could be. Who can you trust?
Hubba hubba, who can you trust? Yep. In any event, we get a 2-issue arc here where the Avengers and Squadron Supreme scrap over a sinking airplane that has crashed into the ocean.
Yep.
They get in each other's way. The public begins to distrust the Avengers as a result of this, and they have to regain their public trust with the help of government agent Dwayne Freeman. Eventually, they head back to Project Pegasus to try to figure out what's going on here. Leads to a knockdown, drag-out scrap with the Squadron Supreme and the Avengers. The Squadron seems to have the powers advantage, but the Avengers use their tactics to outsmart them, and also expose that they're being mind-controlled by this villain called the...
Some guy.
The Somethinger. I forget what he was called.
Oh, the Controller.
Yeah,
I think.
I guess maybe we're gonna be taking a task for this, Nick.
Oh, I'm sure we are.
But anyway, turns out he was mind controlling them, but all at the behest of some guy named Imus Champion.
Imus Champion. What a name! What a wonderful name, Imus Champion.
I'm a big fan of that name.
Yes,
but I don't know anything about him.
So
and you get along the way, you get a in-team conflict between Captain America and Hawkeye. Hawkeye feels like he has been disrespected this whole time. He should have been brought in with the original crew to make the team decisions. He should be respected for his veteran leadership, and instead he thinks Captain America is treating him like a know-nothing novice, which, to Hawkeye's credit, is true. Is it not, Nick? Maybe, am I nuts? Am I crazy? Or is Captain America throwing his weight around from the beginning of this?
He's absolutely throwing his weight around. Not just with Hawkeye, but also with Carol Danvers. Because afterwards he's like, I told you to change into binary. I told you to do it right then, and you didn't do it. What the hell were you thinking? Why does she have to listen to you? You're not the boss.
And then Carol says, ain't no man going to tell me what to do.
Essentially.
Yeah.
I don't blame her.
I don't blame her either. I thought Cap was being unreasonable here.
Take your bullshit inspirational speeches and take them elsewhere, Cap.
So drunk Carol Danvers is over here.
Now, see, you got a character who's drunk and not listening to anybody, and you got a character who's trying to be a good person. Which one do you think I'm going to go with, Greg? Give me the drunk who doesn't listen every time. Now,
I would suggest that you would probably try to befriend that person that was trying to be the good person.
No.
Carol and is there, and Cap. The only person that Cap doesn't condescend to is Tony.
The Corruptor was the name of this thing.
The Corruptor. Thank you. I knew that Controller wasn't right, but
I'm a champion.
But yes, so the only person that Cap doesn't condescend to during the story is Iron Man, and that's only because Iron Man has no character to speak of. So you couldn't condescend to him, even if you wanted to. He's just a blank shell, so to speak. So the other thing here is, at the end of the story, we kind of are left. We talked about how boring Cap is and how boring Iron Man is, and I thought the two most interesting characters, three most, were Thor. Just because of his dialogue. Nothing really interesting character-wise happens to him here, but his dialogue is really good. But the two interesting characters here are Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch. Would you agree?
Scarlet Witch, yeah. Hawkeye, I mean, kind of interesting, yeah, a little bit. I wasn't as taken by Hawkeye as you were.
I can agree with that, and I'll get to why in just a second. Hawkeye, I think, was interesting in that he had a character and that he was a source of conflict in the group and drove the action, drove the plot and all that stuff. But this is where my lack of Marvel knowledge comes in, because I am most familiar with Hawkeye from two sources: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the cartoon, but primarily the Matt Fraction Hawkeye series. And Hawkeye here talks nothing like that version of Hawkeye that Matt Fraction wrote.
None.
He talks more like Wolverine was often portrayed in the X-Men comics, to me anyway. Is this in keeping from you reading the early Avengers comics? I don't even know if you've gotten to Hawkeye yet.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, this is pretty in keeping with, Silver Age Hawkeye. Okay. I mean, he's
rough around the edges.
Rough around the edges, but in that 60s and 70s way of being rough around the edges, where he's not actually rough around the edges or edgy at all. It's just compared to the other milquetoast characters, he seems edgy by comparison, I guess.
Well, he's mad all the time.
He's just mad all the time about something, but
he's a little bit like Ben Grimm.
A little bit, I guess.
A lot of abbreviated words and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's not bad, I guess. But Wanda is a great character in this. Wanda has inner turmoil. She's trying to figure out new powers that are coming her way that, of course, would end up changing the course of the Marvel Universe. Very good stuff by Busiek here, introducing that. And
a gift for a later writer.
And presumably, Wanda is also trying to figure out why she's wearing a giant M on her head. But she's been trying to figure that out for 30 years. So she's great here, I thought. She was probably, as far as interesting characters go, the most interesting in this story.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, she's got inner turmoil because she's trying to figure out what exactly is happening to her, not only with her powers to affect reality, but how Simon Wonderman plays into all that, and also her relationship with the Vision, which they make reference to having been a marriage at one point and now it no longer is. She has the most going on of any character, I would argue. And as a result, we find her the most interesting.
Yes.
Because they give her things that aren't entirely reliant upon previous knowledge. They actually give her character development in these 6 issues. They give her intriguing subplots. And it's not just a big nostalgia circle jerk.
You reckon Simon Wonderman wants to bone her?
I imagine that he does.
That seemed to be the implication in that first arc where he comes back and he says he was dead, but in something, his connection to something or someone kept pulling him back. And then Wanda says, well, gosh, what could that be? And then Simon says, I daren't talk about it right now, or something like that. And he wanted to bone her, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He wanted to give her the ionic pleasure.
The ionic pleasure, yes. Take her to the ionosphere.
Yeah, baby. So let's talk about the looks of these characters now. We talked about this on the phone a little bit earlier. Let's get the obvious out of the way. Cap is Cap. He's got a new shield, but he's still Cap. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. So he's got the triangle shield. His regular shield, it's explained, has sunk as a result of something that happened in his solo title. Gets the old triangle shield back. And he looks like Captain America. There's nothing different about him. He looks great. Thor is Thor. I mean, you're no more familiar with Thor than I am, but it looks like the classic traditional Thor outfit.
Yeah, standard Thor. No issues there.
And then you get to Iron Man. Not a fan of this Iron Man design, personally.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, at least the one, and it seemed like it wasn't there the entire time, but the one we see in Avengers #1, he's got these weird, like, glowing vents, like a vent mohawk and then a vent collar and then a vent on both his arms that are glowing, and they look dumb, in my opinion.
You weren't feeling the glow.
I was not feeling. I am never, and nor will I ever be feeling the glow.
Teriyaki. Anyway, I didn't like the look of this Iron Man suit from the get-go. I don't like all the yellow, like the yellow mohawk thing. I don't like the yellow collar around him. It's just a lot of yellow on the suit, which I know, red and yellow, that's the whole deal. But I just didn't like this particular color scheme. I also didn't like the kind of like, I don't know how to describe it except for like a Wolverine or a Batman like V that comes at the top of it, you know? instead of connecting into one solid shell piece. It's like got a little bit of a protrusion on top of it. I didn't like that. Not a big fan of that Iron Man look, and I don't know that I've seen a look like it since then. But then again, I'm not exactly an Iron Man expert either. So move away from that. My absolute favorite design. I freaking love this Quicksilver design. By far my favorite Quicksilver design. What do you think, Nick?
I'm struggling to remember how it differentiates from standard Quicksilver design, honestly.
Well, the standard Quicksilver design is the blue outfit, like the blue shirt and the white belt,
right,
the lightning bolt design on the shirt, and just the plain blue pants with the white boots. Mm-hmm. This is like the split down the middle, like lightning outfit.
Okay, yeah, it's good design.
Looks sleek, looks awesome, looks way better than Quicksilver's corny traditional outfit, in my opinion. Corny traditional outfit. So I'm a huge fan of this era. They should have never changed it. Who's next that I want to talk about? I mean, Hawkeye looks like traditional Hawkeye. No change there. Your mileage on that suit may vary. And Vision is Vision. Not the Mothman, as Nick calls it, Vision, although I love that look. But the traditional Vision, right?
Right. Red and green and yellow and all that.
Yep. Wanda has more of a kind of gypsy-influenced look to her, I think, than perhaps her original outfit. But again, largely classic, right? Or am I off on that?
About Wanda?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Pretty standard classic design.
Mm-hmm. Carol Danvers looks like we remember her looking as Miss Marvel.
Yep, the old black and yellow costume. Good look.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, Justice and Firestar.
I don't know the first fucking thing about them. So I have nothing to compare their looks to. So
Justice has a good look, I think, for a character. Justice looks like a superhero character. Mm-hmm. Firestar, I'm sorry, looks idiotic. She looks like somebody took Booster Gold's glasses and married it to a costume that doesn't even remotely fit those glasses. Doesn't look good at all to me. What about you?
Well, I didn't mind the look. I didn't hate it as much as you did. I know she always has had some sort of elaborate headpiece, so that's one thing about the Marvel Universe. You got to love your elaborate headpiece.
Elaborate headpieces. So, I'm trying. Any other distinctive looks you can remember in this group, Nick?
No.
Stood out to you one way or the other?
Nope.
No. Fair enough. So, oh gosh, Perez art amazing.
Yep.
Busiek writing.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I hate to say this because this is such a revered run.
Yeah.
But all I can figure is that the best is yet to come.
It has to be.
It has to be.
God, I hope it is, because if not, I need to know what people are seeing here that we're not.
Yes.
And again, a large part of it could be that
right.
that knowledge and understanding and in-depth love of the Avengers that we don't have.
Yes. Exactly. I think anytime, the same way that objectively, I'm sure that if you go back and read the early 90s Superman, it's not going to read the same way to somebody that has no connection to these characters,
right.
the way that it does to me.
Right.
So I get that. But like, man, for somebody that doesn't have a attachment to really any of these characters or a knowledge of them, it was very, very boring, to be honest with you, Nick. Yeah. It was a hard read. Regardless of my speed reading issues, one of the biggest problems I had here was those first 3 issues took me forever to get through because they just weren't fun.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree with all of that.
I thought it picked up the pace as it went along.
Right.
I do want to keep reading the series because I want to get to the Ultron story, because that's the one that everybody says is the standard bearer for Avengers stories. So we have to get there at some point, but man, I had to cut it off at 6 because I had to take a break from this for a little while. Now, final verdicts on this. Well, we pretty much have already said it. I would give it, I'm going to say a B-. If I'm letter grading it, I would say it's a comic series. It's got great art and largely uninteresting events.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, that assessment of it. Letter grade-wise, I'd have to go a little lower because I'm much more about the writing in these things than I am the art, so I would go C+. With the understanding that it started to tick upwards near the end, and perhaps it eventually becomes everything that people have told me that it is. And
everything they don't.
I'll say this. Our close personal longtime friend and friend of the show, Ben Morse, once told me that Brian Michael Bendis Avengers run is Avengers for people who don't like Avengers and who love DC. So if that's the case, compared to this, I'm still firmly in the Bendis Avengers camp. Put it that way.
Yeah. I don't want to further increase stereotypes about myself that are based in reality, but I would tend to probably agree with that. But so any hate mail that our listeners may have, and I'm sure you may have some, I want you to take that email and I want you to throw it away and I want you to replace it with a tweet. Mm-hmm. I want you to direct that tweet at JRsBBQ on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And just let us have it. Tell us what you think about this Avengers run. Tell us why we're wrong. Tell us that we're morons, that we don't appreciate the great grand history of Marvel Comics,
and
that we don't
stay tuned for the soon-to-follow new episode of Conversation Comics, where Tim Capel and Todd Weber will jump over to the Busiek and Perez Avengers just to explain to us why we're wrong, panel by panel.
Absolutely. We will revisit this run in the future,
probably,
and try to get to the Ultron run,
probably. Allegedly.
But let us know what your thoughts are. I am on Twitter at dphillips8652.
And we understand, we get it. We understand that,
yes,
most of you probably love this.
Yes,
it is what it is, man.
I know Todd, Tim, Ben, gosh, who else has told me about
sure
my boss?
Yes.
My boss at work. Is this for Avengers Nuts? This is the run.
Yes.
So I understand. We're ready for it. I'm at
Bring it on, because we're ready for it.
He is at Nick Duke 87. We can be found at Greg P at PlaceToBeNation.com, Nick D at PlaceToBeNation.com. We can be found at the Place to Be Nation Comics Facebook page. Would love to discuss this run with you guys over there. What else? Gosh, Place to Be Nation Pop on Twitter. Loneliest Twitter address on the internet.
Place to Be Nation Comics on Twitter. Loneliest Twitter address on the internet.
That's exactly what I meant. I said the wrong thing, damn it. But nonetheless, find us on all these places. Let us know your thoughts. We are going to take a break and allow you to listen to advertisements for all the great shows here at PTB and Pop. When we come back on the other end, we've got reading, we've got watching, we've got the rundown. Hopefully, we'll still have a show if the manager is willing to produce the remainder of it.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, pro wrestling announcer Kevin Kelly here. I want to make sure you are all subscribed to all the great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. It's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, which of course includes the full archives of the Kevin Kelly Show, the Place to Be Nation pod feed, and the Pro Wrestling Only feed. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And be sure to give Justin your true thoughts. I mean, don't hold back. After all, he is kind of a jerk. Just listen to Scott.
Place to Be Nation's JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We offer them to you on two great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the Place to Be podcast, along with Main Event, Survey Says, the Monday Night Wars, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction show, as well as Jeff Learns Wrestling. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver special network podcasts and pod blasts on topics old and new.
Over on the Pro Wrestling Only feed, we dive deep inside the wrestling business with a stacked army of experts leading the way. The feed features potpourri shows such as This Week in Wrestling, Greetings from Allentown, Match of the Week podcast, and the Military Industrial Suplex. We also have shows that focus intently on certain topics like Through the Years, Worldcast, Strong Style History, Strong Style Story, and Mount Olympus. Plus, the feed has the full archives of legendary shows like Titans of Wrestling, Where the Big Boys Play, Letters from Center Stage, and Letters from Kayfabe, plus much more. And on our very popular Place to Be Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as Talkin' Pop, the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, NBA Team, PTB and Play, Sunday Groove, Breaking Balls, and Lucha Undead, as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans with the Hard-Traveling Fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversations, Geek and Sassy, and Marvel Age podcasts.
You can find all of these current shows, plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback today. All these shows, plus others, available at PlayStation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects, and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlayStation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, and historyofwrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlayStation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Hi there. Have you recently gone through a crisis? Did you find out your friends have been lying to you for years to cover up something they did? Have you discovered that one of your bitter enemies might actually be 3 people? Were you seemingly killed by a new god only to find yourself quantum leaping through time until you make it back to the present? Was your entire reality wiped out in a cosmic battle between 2 godlike beings only to be reborn, destroyed, and reborn again? Then join me, Russell Sellers, and my special guests as we help you manage your post-crisis life in DC Post-Crisis Management, a limited monthly series starting in September. We can't promise you closure, but we will try to avoid destroying your hometown and turning you into a homicidal maniac who wipes out time.
We are back from the break, ladies and gentlemen, or are we? We don't know. We don't know what the manager has done to us in post-production at this point. Mm-hmm. We may have just given our last address to the listening audience, Nick.
Mm-hmm. Very possible that this isn't even being heard by any person, which would make it just like all our other episodes. So there you go.
Absolutely. Our audience has multiplied by a factor of 0.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, we're going to get into, regardless of who's listening, our normal weekly segments. And we're going to kick things off with a jam-packed, saucy edition of The Rundown.
Welcome to The Rundown.
Mm-hmm.
It's our weekly look at the news and notes in the world of comics. And as you can tell from Nick's yawn, it's super exciting this week.
Yes.
We're kicking things off, ladies and gentlemen, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Because the MCU, for the first time legitimately, because no, Ike Perlmutter's TV universe doesn't count.
Not even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that had Samuel L. Jackson on it in season 1?
No.
Had Lady Sif?
There's been no attempt by the movies to acknowledge these shows.
That's true.
The MCU is coming to the small screen. And it's doing it, allegedly, this according to Variety, through the the Disney streaming service. It says here that Disney is going to develop shows centered on Loki and the Scarlet Witch, along with other beloved superheroes who have yet to appear in their own standalone movies, in 6 to 8 episode series that will star the actors from the films. In this case, it would be Tom Hiddleston and Elizabeth Olsen as Loki and Scarlet Witch, respectively. And this will be done with. It says that this will be done with budgets that are going to be hefty, quote, rivaling those of major studio productions, end quote. This is a huge development, Nick. Not just for the growth of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, for these actors involved, for the fans, but for the growth of Marvel's or of Disney's streaming service.
Yeah, it is. I'm sure it is pretty big for the growth. You're right.
Yes, it is big for the growth. Let me tell you more about that, Nick.
Yes, please do.
You see, I have not had any intention of getting Disney's streaming service. I'm not as, I've seen the Star Wars movies I want to see a billion times and catch them on TV all the time. Don't need that. I know I have access to watching most of the Marvel movies that I want to watch. That's fine. But I was never really going to get their streaming service. But you give me the promise, Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch, and Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Mm-hmm. I gotta say, Nick, this might be a subscription seller for me.
Oh, it was already the subscription was already sold for me based on the Jon Favreau Star Wars live action television show that's happening, that he's show running for it. So I was already going to get it. This is just added bonus material as far as I'm concerned. So excited about this. Disney is far and away, especially now once you consider the eventual finalization of the Fox acquisition of the bulk of their properties, far and away the number one property owner in pop culture, and they are about to leverage that in a big bad way. And I would imagine we're gonna wake up in a world 5-10 years down the road where this Disney streaming service is every bit as household, as commonly used, as frequently used as Netflix or Hulu. They will be dominating a sizable chunk of the market share.
I don't think it ever reaches Netflix level.
I think it does. I think you are grossly underestimating the appeal of the Disney catalog to families in particular.
Perhaps. I'm sure a lot of people will get in on it, but Netflix is a big juggernaut at this point.
It is.
And I don't know. And so many people own these Disney movies already. Like if your primary selling, it depends on what your primary selling point is. Mm-hmm. If they get original content that is both as varied and as quality as what Netflix has, perhaps. But I don't think they're going to be able to sell it on the back catalog alone.
They're going to sell it on a combination of things, because the thing about Netflix is their back catalog is continually being chipped away at by various entities seeking to start their own streaming service or pull things in different directions. Netflix is increasingly becoming focused on original content, which it probably should for its long-term viability. I guess my point is established properties, long-term iconic franchises. Nobody has the market cornered the way Disney does. Again, once the Fox deal goes through, think about all the properties they're adding from that standpoint. That service, yes, when you hear the name Disney, you think of family-friendly entertainment or animated films or what have you, but with the Lucasfilm properties, with the Marvel properties, with the Fox properties, they're going to have opportunities to put a wide variety of content out there, both established and original, that leverages existing franchises. I'm telling you, man, it's going to be a massive success.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not going to be a success. I don't think that it's going to reach Netflix levels at that time, but I could be wrong. I could be underestimating them. I feel like it will hinge upon how good their original content is. If it's as good as what Netflix has done with its original content, then there's no reason the sky can't be the limit. Like you said, their access to intellectual properties, their access to franchises, TV series, complete runs, just from ABC and Marvel as well, alone, plus Disney, plus Fox now potentially. A lot of room for growth here. I mean, this is an exciting service, and I am definitely in on this, assuming I can afford it. So interesting developments there. But speaking of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Nick, a trailer dropped the day of this recording for a little movie you might have heard of.
Mm-hmm.
The name of that movie?
Yes.
Point Break.
Indeed.
This is a film about Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, and they are, they like surfing. Your thoughts, Nick?
What the hell are we doing with our time right now?
Oh, Captain Marvel. That's the movie I'm thinking of. So, Captain Marvel, a Marvel Comics character, had her trailer, her first movie preview trailer drop on the internet this morning. And I gotta say, I loved it. I don't know anything about Captain Marvel other than what we've talked about on this show tonight. Carol Danvers is another huge blind spot character for me. I'm aware she's extremely popular online, particularly in the last few years. I don't know how accurate this trailer is to her comics origins. I don't know how true it is to the way she's historically been presented. I just know that it had me on the edge of my seat at the office. I thought the visuals in this looked distinct from any other Marvel film. It looks almost like a J.J. Abrams movie in terms of not just in terms of the lens flare, but also in terms of just the lighting, the way the movie looks aesthetically, cinematography. Some of the shots reminded me of that. It looks different and distinct. Again, I'm not sure about, I've heard some complaints online about the voice for Carol Danvers in this being, I've also heard it in person, actually. My boss even had the same complaint about how her voice doesn't match what they always thought Carol Danvers would sound like. And I get that, because I would agree with that. But I guess for me, the overall excitement about the visuals and the story overtook any concerns that I would have had about that, because I don't have any attachment to the character. So it looks awesome to me, man.
Yeah, I couldn't really understand the voice complaint just because I haven't read enough Carol Danvers to really have a distinct idea of what her voice sounds like in my head, So I guess I was pretty much open to anything as it relates to the voice. So voice didn't bug me. My only complaint with this trailer is a complaint that I very rarely, if ever, have with any trailers, is I actively wanted to see more. I wanted to know more about what was going on in the plot of this movie. I wanted to know more about Carol's, her backstory and stuff like that. Because again, because as a novice, somebody who doesn't know a lot about Captain Marvel, and doesn't know, how far they're straying from the comic book page, I don't know where to go to find out more about this version of the character, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. They're making me intrigued and making me want to walk into the theater to find these things out. So yeah, great trailer. Can't wait for it. Think it's going to be something special for sure. And the de-aging effect on Samuel L. Jackson, phenomenal.
Yeah, looks like he walked right off the set of what was the M. Night Shyamalan movie, Unbreakable. Mm-hmm. Looks like he walked right off the set.
Well, he doesn't have the weird Mr. Glass afro that he had.
True.
Had there.
So perhaps Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah, that's a good one. There you go.
Yeah, it's an amazing effect. It looks like they're going to use it all movie long in this. And the transformation effect at the end of the trailer is amazing. So yeah, really looking forward to Captain Marvel. I also am looking forward to a true sequel to Man of Steel, where I would get to see Superman on the big screen. But, Nick, as we settle into the DCEU corner...
It's been a while.
It has. They've been kind of laying low a little bit. But they came back with a vengeance this week.
Or isn't it now... Wait a minute, there's something else. What is it now? The Worlds of DC, right? Isn't that what they called it?
I believe that is the case, yes.
Worlds of DC corner.
Well... What better way to kick off the Worlds of DC corner than with, stop me, Nick, if I'm treading over old ground here, but a rumor that was then refuted by another rumor, that was then confirmed by a separate rumor, that was then counteracted by a tweet, which ultimately means we don't have a god dang clue what's going on, but...
We don't, but given the track record of how these various rumors, especially when they're rumors that would look bad for Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment, have played out, I know what my money's on. Put it that way.
Yeah. So the word came out that Henry Cavill was out as Superman in the DC Worlds of Extended Versus thing. His agent says, quote, the cape is still in his closet. DC says they're still together. Some other report came out and said it was all blown out of proportion. But the original rumor that came out, I believe in either the Hollywood Reporter or Variety, said that essentially, Cavill was asked to do an appearance in the Shazam movie, turned it down due to scheduling conflicts, and that basically DC is using that as an opportunity to step away from him completely, and indeed to step away from Superman completely for now, and instead focus all their efforts on Supergirl as a movie cornerstone character. Then the report came out, and another rumor came out, this one admittedly less sourced, that Warner Brothers was eyeing Michael B. Jordan to play Superman in their reimagined universe, quote, years down the line when they get back around to Superman. So...
yeah, Michael B. Jordan won't have anything going on, 6-7 years from now. He'll be open. He'll be free.
Yeah. So, let's touch on the Cavill part first. The tone of the article made it seem as if I don't know if you read it the same way, Nick. Mm-hmm. Maybe you read it completely differently. I read this article as if the anonymous sources were blaming Henry Cavill for the failures of the Superman takes that have happened thus far in the cinematic universe.
I did not read it that way, personally. But
I don't know. And that's fair. I mean, the tone came off to me as if it was, and also just the course of how things are going, whether it be with Cyborg, with Ray Fisher, and DC apparently parting. It feels as if the actors are now in they're taking the fall for the mistakes of the studio.
Mm-hmm. Well, not just them, Zack Snyder as well.
Sure, Zack Snyder, but one could argue that many of these mistakes were more the fault of Snyder than they were the fault of. I would say that the studio shares most of the blame, but I think Snyder could be argued to take part of the blame. I don't think it's his fault. He took the gigs that were given to him. His vision didn't fit with what people wanted. But again, why did Warner Brothers trust him to make 3 freaking movies in a row?
Well, 2.5, I guess.
No, yeah, 2.5. But the contract, for that. So, Cavill now, if he's gone, I think it's a shame because he never really got a chance to play Superman until the second half of Justice League, and by then it was too late. I love Man of Steel, but it's a becoming Superman movie. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really become Superman until the end of that movie. And we never got a sequel to it. We got a Batman movie where Superman's essentially a villain for much of the film, presented that way. So, and then we get Justice League where he's dead for half the movie. So I think it sucks because I actually think Henry Cavill's a really good actor. I think he's has the potential to be a really good Superman. I thought he was a great Clark Kent in Man of Steel. And, he's taken the beating here for mistakes that were made.
I agree with all that. In a perfect world, the DC EU, as it were, would not have fallen apart the way it did, and Henry Cavill would be able to go on playing Superman for years to come, because I think he, like you said, there are aspects of the character he has down and I think could have made for a really good interpretation. While I agree this whole thing sucks, I'm kind of on the side of I think it's necessary, though. I am of the opinion at this point, I think the whole thing is so tainted that the superhero universe established by DC to this point is toxic. That you've pretty much got to burn the whole thing down and start over, with the obvious exception of Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. Now, how you do that, how you manage to keep her while starting the rest over or hitting the reset button on the rest, I don't know. I'm not sure there is a way to do it. And this is a somewhat controversial opinion that I know you don't share, but as a fan, my overwhelming desire to see a fully realized, functioning version of the DC universe on the big screen, interconnected in the way that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, a fully realized version of the DC universe that I know and love from the comics. To me, if I knew there was a way to get that, it would be worth losing Gal Gadot. And that's just... I'm just putting it out there as blatantly as I can.
And I see no reason why it would have to come to that. I see no reason. I don't think the audience is so dumb that they would not be able to accept another Superman interacting with Gal Gadot. We've seen in the past iconic actors play a version of that character in multiple different formats, whether it be Adam West on the 60s show, Adam West picking up later on in cartoons and in certain life.
I guess my larger concern is that they would attempt to narratively tie everything that has happened to what would happen. That is what I don't want, because I think that's toxic at this point.
The prevailing sentiment at this point appears to be people seem to be advocating for DC just to eschew a connected universe entirely, which I don't want to happen.
I don't want that either. No, you don't. The problem is not the connected universe. The problem is
absolutely.
The problem is you did one very poorly and haphazardly, and now you're saying, "Oh, the problem is that we really tried to tie all this stuff together." No, the issue is that you tried to tie stuff together badly. Do it well, and it can still work.
Right, and don't rush it.
Right, take your time.
Yeah, when you do a Superman movie, don't immediately follow it up with a movie where you do the death of Superman.
Right.
Oh, God, stupid. Anyway.
And then do a Justice League movie where you introduce 4 different members of the League in the same movie. Or 3
Speaking of which brings me to the next point, they're wanting to move away from Superman for a while, if this report is to be believed, from their flagship character.
He's not the flagship character.
Well, along with
he hasn't been for a long time. Batman, in the eyes of Warner Brothers, is the flagship. It is the mothership at this point and has been for 30 years now, it feels like.
He's their Captain America.
There you go.
And they're moving away from him.
Yep.
Because the problem is clearly character. Yep. It's not the idiotic decision making from Warner Brothers. It is the character that's the problem. Mm-hmm. Much like Green Lantern was the problem in 2011. What are they going to do if the Batman movie flops?
I have no idea at that point.
We're going to step away from... No, they're not going to step away from Batman. Or if they do, what the hell are they going to do? They just keep trotting out C-list characters and flopping with them too? Mm-hmm. So... Listen, I have all the respect in the world for Supergirl. I love the TV show.
Yep.
I love the universe they've created.
Yep.
I don't want to see another Supergirl.
Hey, here's a crazy idea. Why not just let that be the DC universe?
No,
that wouldn't work.
No,
people like that, and it seems to be giving them something they enjoy. So we certainly don't want that.
Nick, listen, they're TV actors.
They're TV actors. TV writers.
The audience wouldn't buy the attraction.
Yeah, I'm sure. But no, think about it. Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, paired with the actors from the CW universe, which by the way would give you an opportunity to recast Batman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, a number of characters you could bring in that haven't been introduced in the CW universe yet.
Get a far superior version of the Flash?
Yes. Oh God, yes. You divorce yourself entirely from the entire Ezra Miller problem, which, by the way, that's my new one. That Flash movie's never happening. That's my official prediction.
Nor should it.
Nor should it. You're right.
That we should just get the goddamn give Grant Gustin a chance. Of all the actors on the TV verse, Grant Gustin is the one that I have no doubt could carry a movie.
Oh, absolutely.
No doubt. I think all of them could, but no doubt he could. And like you said, Supergirl. Imagine Melissa Benoist, earnest Supergirl meeting Wonder Woman for the first time. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yep.
But it's not going to happen because they're TV. They're TV people. They don't belong in the. They need to learn how to work movie style.
Right.
So that's a bunch of bull crap, and I don't want to see it. And the other thing is, Supergirl is inherently a derivative character of Superman. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a Superman at all, it's awfully difficult to have a Supergirl. Not impossible, granted, but awfully difficult. I say as I set up the fantasy comics pitches later in the year, but in any event, that sucks. And then Michael B. Jordan, I have no issue with. There's no
Yeah, but that whole report is stupid. Like, we're looking at him for 6, 7, for years down the road. Michael B. Jordan, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, Warner Brothers.
He's a big star.
He's kind of blowing up right now. Like, your idea that, we'll just get him when we want him later. No. Shut up. Like, that makes no sense.
And the way that they have driven the brand into the ground in recent years, they're going to make it where it's not even a sought after position the way it once was. It's like, do I want to get? If I'm an actor right now, I'm thinking, well, first of all, there's two things I'm thinking. Number one, I'm thinking, do I want to become a part of this shit show at Warner Brothers? Number two, I'm thinking, wait a minute, how much money are they going to offer me? And then depending on the answer to that is the answer to number one. So, I would have no issue with Michael B. Jordan, but I don't think it's even remotely feasible at this point because they don't have a plan. But they do have a plan for another character, Nick. They have a plan.
Oh, I thought we were already doing something else. Never mind. Now I know what we're doing.
For the Joker.
Oh, boy.
This week, in fact.
Now, there's one aspect of this I'm actually going to kind of think is kind of funny. The name is kind of funny.
Affleck
is kind of funny. Yeah,
that's it. Albert Fleck.
It's Albert Fleck. It's A Fleck. Yes, that's a nice touch from whoever did that. And the fact that Warner Brothers actually allowed it to happen, I'll give a thumbs up to that.
The first set images from the upcoming Joker film came out, and they feature Joaquin Phoenix as this Albert, I think it is, Fleck, or Alfred Fleck, or whatever it is.
Albert Fleck.
And he looks like a child pornographer.
With a Triple H nose.
Listen, we have got to stop reacting to set photos of things, folks. None of it means anything.
Well, especially in a case of like, is there a set photo they could have taken that would have made us go, you know what, this one might be pretty good? No. The answer is no.
Chris Berman?
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
There's nothing they could have done. Like, there is no set photo they could have manufactured or created that would have changed our minds on this project. So what is really the point in all of us who are already trying to actively hate this thing out of existence anyway, really getting worked up about this stupid set photo? There isn't one. But don't get me wrong. It looks terrible. The set photo that I saw looks awful. But, the whole thing just sounds terrible. So whatever. It is what it is at this point. It sucks. And you know what sucks? Is like we're sitting here and we're bashing it and talking all this shit about it, and we're gonna
go see it.
We're gonna do God knows how many stories about this on the rundown over the next year, and we're gonna shit all over it. We're gonna talk about how stupid it is, and then opening weekend we're gonna go up to the ticket office. And we're gonna say one please, and then we're gonna walk in and spend our hard-earned money to watch this pile of shit. Because because we're broken inside. That's the problem, is the DC universe knows, the people at Warner Brothers know that we're all broken inside. No matter what we say or do, where they're going to get our money anyway. So what do they care? They're essentially Vince McMahon at this point. What do they care?
Absolutely. We've already made our commitment. Why should they do anything different on account of us? We're going to go see Venom in a few weeks.
Yep, we sure are. Probably. It's the middle of football season, so we'll see about that. Probably though.
So that's that. Let's move on from that. Set photos don't mean anything, but my God, the Joker movie just doesn't look good. Mm-hmm. Well, we talked a minute ago about the DC television universe on the CW. We do enjoy that. That's a good thing. And we've got a couple of exciting casting announcements here. Mm-hmm. Which one would you like to tackle first, Nick?
Lois.
Well, there you have it. Lois Lane.
Why did you ask me if you
has been cast? Lois Lane has been cast in the DC CW crossover, and it is she's going to be played by grim actress Elizabeth Bitsy Tulloch. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Bitsy sounds like a Teletubby name.
Lois will be appearing in the crossover between Arrow, The Flash, and Supergirl. Mm-hmm. It says here Legends, but Legends they've already said is not going to be part of the crossover.
It's a 3-part crossover this year.
where Ruby Rose will be introduced as Batwoman. Mm-hmm. Apparently, she will appear alongside Tyler Hoechlin as Clark Kent, a.k.a. Superman. And I don't know much about this actress, but by God, she looks a lot like a young Margot Kidder.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah, I didn't really think about it that way. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know much about this actress either, but Lois being introduced is cool, and, Batwoman coming in, all this stuff.
Yeah. As you know, Lois is a character that means a lot to me, is my favorite woman in comics. Mm-hmm. And with one exception, every Lois, I think, I would make the strong argument that every Lois there's ever been on film or on TV has been a good one. Every one of them has done a good job. And
yeah, I guess, yeah.
I'm hoping.
Except for Kate Bosworth, yeah.
Yeah, Kate Bosworth, the one standout of not doing that. But yes, I'm interested to see what this lady does, Miss Tulloch, and see if she can carry on in the footsteps of the likes of Noel Neill and Terry Hatcher and Erica Durant. So really excited about what she brings to the table.
It'll be interesting for sure.
Also interesting is the wife of one of the favorites here on Hard-Traveling Fanboys, our man crush, Stephen Amell.
Yes.
His wife, Cassandra Jean Amell, had been cast to play Nora Freeze, the wife of Mr. Freeze, in said DC-CW crossover. Nick, your thoughts on this casting?
I'm excited about it, at least for the implications that it has likely, I would assume, for the Batwoman television show. And not saying this is going to happen, but wouldn't it be interesting for a Batwoman television show if they were to gender invert that character, where Victor Freeze is the one who is the
one that's frozen and Nora is Mrs. Freeze.
Yes, that's kind of what I was thinking. Not saying it'll happen, not saying it should happen. I'm just saying it's an interesting idea that would,
Before anyone even brings it up, any issues with the fact that they hired Amell's wife? I don't have an issue with it.
Why? I mean, isn't she an actress in her own right?
Yes.
So why would there?
But I was assuming there would be some claims of nepotism or something involved. But
again, we're all working off the assumption that this is eventually going to tie in somehow to a recurring role on Batwoman, which is a show that Stephen Amell's not even
involved in. Right.
So also. Come on now. These CW supporting roles aren't exactly being filled by A-list actors, so it's not like, Beth from The Walking Dead is not exactly walking in and commanding a $12 million salary. So
wait just a minute, sir.
No, Beth sucks.
You take it back. She's great.
She's awful.
The show's been downhill since she left. Can you argue it?
No, but what does that have to do with anything?
I think it's directly tied.
Well, in your opinion. In any event, so yeah, I don't see any issue with her playing it. I'm sure she'll do fine.
I think so too. I'm excited for it.
And she's hot, so it can't hurt.
Yes, good for her, good for them, good for all of them, good for everyone.
Now here we go. This is what I'm talking about. Here we go.
Let's go to DC Comics.
Yeah, let's do that.
Would you like to handle this topic?
No. Well, I suppose that I can without looking at the story in front of me because I think I have it all pretty well committed to memory at this point. So, in the pages of DC Comics, as we all know, in the aftermath of Batman 50, which we talked about on these very airwaves, Bruce Wayne's been going through something of a depressing time in his life.
Sucky depression life.
Yeah, sucky depression life. He has been acting in ways that he normally wouldn't, both in his personal life and in his career as Batman. We've seen that play out in the pages of Tom King's Batman. And we also know that behind the scenes, Bane and a variety of supervillains are working to actively destroy, emotionally torture the Dark Knight. And how, my dear listeners, can you emotionally torture Bruce Wayne than by striking out at those who he loves? And you
never seen that before.
Down the list. Who does he love? Well, he loves Catwoman. Well, you got her. Caused the split of the wedding or whatever.
Oh gosh, the pain for Batman must be incredible.
The pain of being left at the altar, yes, I'm sure it would be incredible, Greg.
It's poking at him in ways that he's never been poked before.
He's never been left at the altar before, Greg. In any event, the point being, so you got Catwoman. Now, who's next on the list? Well, you could go Alfred. You could say Alfred, but I'm sure Alfred will come into play down the road.
Oh, he'll probably lose a hand and then get it back.
But besides Alfred, who do you go to next? Do you go to Jim Gordon? You could, but I would argue there's somebody even more important to Batman than Jim Gordon.
More important to Batman than Jim Gordon?
I would make that argument.
Oh, wow.
I would argue that Dick Grayson is more important to Batman than even Jim Gordon is. And I would argue that as a result of that, he needs to be shot in the head by an assassin. And so Dick Grayson in the upcoming pages of, I believe it's Batman 55, is going to be shot in the head. And it's not going to kill him, though. It's just going to cause him to have amnesia. He's going to forget that he was ever Dick Grayson, forget that he was ever Robin, forget that he was ever Nightwing. He's going to be completely amnesiac. And this change is so good. It's such a great change that Nightwing writer Ben Percy said, you know what? This is a story so great, that I am not worthy of being able to tell it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to politely bow out, and I'm going to turn it over to a writer who can tell this story, who can give this story all the gravitas that it deserves, who can give this story the pizzazz that it deserves. And of course, that writer is it not Scott Lobdell, Greg? Am I remembering that wrong?
It's Scott Lobdell.
Yeah, Scott Lobdell is going to write the story of this amnesiac Dick Grayson.
The man who has written such classics as Generation X, as Uncanny X-Men.
Teen Titans from the New 52 was just
beautiful.
Just something to be remembered. But yes, so Dick Grayson going to be shot in the head, going to lose his memories, and going to be written now by Scott Lobdell. So this is I don't know about you, Greg, but this all sounds like it's making for a hell of a story, a hell of an addition to Tom King's Batman run. And I got to say, I'm completely on board.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Well, that's our show, folks.
That's the rundown.
Yep.
Let's move on to our weekly look at what we've been reading and watching in the world of... let me come back to this for just a moment, Nick, because I'm having second thoughts. I'm having second thoughts about this. I know I said that I'm good with it, but I've just got a few things nagging at me here. Now, you say, first of all, that Nightwing is going to be an amnesiac. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding of it. Anyway.
He's going to have lost his memory.
Yes, his callback memories, but he's still going to have his muscle memory. That's the important thing you got to remember here.
So he can still fight.
Yes, but he won't know that he's able to fight.
Right, it's a key distinction. And it will be a surprise to him that he knows how to fight.
Yes.
And he won't know why he knows how to fight, and he won't have all the pain and the torment of his past. You might say, Nick, that he might even get comfortable in this new life.
We don't know that. We don't know that, Greg.
I think the solicitation for one of the issues literally said, now that he is comfortable in his new life and enjoying himself.
Well, possibly, I guess.
But here's the thing, Nick. I seem to recall, now I could be way off base here, but, before the DC Rebirth Initiative, when Tom King took over Batman, there was another Batman run by... who was it? Was it Jeff Loeb? No. It was Scott Snyder. That was the writer. And in this run, towards the very, very end, if you recall, there was a story called Endgame. And at the end of this story called Endgame, now, again, perhaps I'm overstepping my bounds here and speaking out of turn, but I feel like the result of that story was that Batman and the Joker were left as amnesiacs.
Yes.
Who had lost the memory of being Batman and the Joker, respectively.
Yes.
Now, I then believe, if I'm not mistaken, that in the following story arc, Bruce Wayne grew to become happy for the very first time, to the point that Alfred did not want to inform him of his prior life as Batman, because for the first time in Master Bruce Wayne's life, he was truly happy. But he still had his muscle memory.
Thereabouts, yes.
And eventually he has to make the painful choice to embrace the pain of his past and become the Batman once more.
Yes, he has to plug himself into a mental torture machine, essentially.
Yes. So I feel like I've seen this song and dance before, to a degree. Let's push that aside for a moment, and the fact that it's completely unoriginal and repetitive of something that just happened a couple years ago. Is not the pitch for an upcoming simultaneous DC Comics story arc starring Aquaman that's already been announced in advance that he is an amnesiac who doesn't remember being Aquaman?
That is accurate, yes. I had forgotten about that, but yes, you're right.
Doesn't seem very creative, does it? Okay, well, let's take that. Let's take Aquaman, which is coming out in December. It had already been solicited months in advance, and certainly would not coincide with this story, which was absolutely planned months in advance and not at all a surprise to the writer of the ongoing series. Let's move that to the side with Endgame, right? They're in the corner. We're gonna forget those exist. We're just gonna lock them away. Dick Grayson. Oh, Dick Grayson, my favorite character in comics.
Well, Dick Grayson, but that's a great. He's a fine character. Well, he's not really. He's kind of a shitty character. Let's be honest. Let's just call a spade. But what's really the worst thing about Dick Grayson is that he's called Dick Grayson. So we got to get rid of that. I mean, that's that's the first thing that's got to go. Is we can't have any more Dick around here.
No, how can you take a character seriously, Nick, when you have to say Dick every time you talk about him?
Yeah, how can you? I mean, if you're typing Dick and writing Dick and reading Dick all the time, you're not gonna buy it. Nobody's buying Dick.
No one wants to eat Dick every day.
No,
that's what we're saying,
no.
and that's what you'll be doing if you're writing Dick all the time. I mean, Dick Tracy, passé.
Dick Trickle, done.
Dick Trickle, loser. Have you ever watched RoboCop recently, Nick?
It's been a little bit.
Well, they work for a guy named Dick Jones.
Yeah, that's true. Former NBC sports president Dick Enberg. I mean, God, what did he ever do? Who did he ever beat?
Who did he ever beat? So what I think is going to happen now is we're going to start just referring to these people by their last name. He's just Enberg now.
Dirty Slater. No more Dick. Just Dirty Slater.
Just Dirty Slater. That's right. Murdoch and Dusty Rhodes, Texas Outlaws.
Yep.
Now, what we're going to do is that, and so what if we just called him Grayson?
That'll work. We
don't have to call him Dick Grayson, or Richard for that matter, because Richard implies Dick.
Yes, it does.
And we don't.
What about Rich? Can we call him Rich?
Nope. Still too close, because if you call him Rich Grayson, then you can extrapolate that to Richard, which you can then turn into a joke as Dick.
Dick, yeah. The Dick of
So we can't, you're right, you can't do that with this character. You change his name. The other thing that we need to do is we need to have his head be shaved down, and we need to have a convenient bat scar on his head from where he's been shot in the head to remind people that, yes, he's still Nightwing. But he's not. You see,
right?
So
definitely not Dick.
Because certainly the only pattern from which you could extract that bullet or the casings or whatever the hell is in his brain would be through the bat symbol or the Nightwing symbol. So, and for Grayson, not Dick, he's gone. No more Dick. We're putting Dick in the corner with Aquaman and with Batman stories from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So. Now you're left with this character of Grayson, who my favorite character. Comic. And he's a character that probably didn't exist. Face it. So, but he does exist. Soft platform for
folks. We apologize. We're having technical difficulties during Greg's rant, so just bear with us here for a moment.
What was that?
I said we're having some technical difficulties during Greg's rant here, so we're just going to bear with you for a moment.
Technical difficulties. Favorite personally. And when you're difficult, the thing to do is to buy time.
Yes, buy time. I agree.
Yes, and in my case, I have just determined that the technical difficulties are not on my end.
Well, then let's push forward.
So this character of Grayson, we can mutually agree is an existing character. I think my favorite part of his character, Nick, and you'd have to give me this. My favorite part of his character to this point in his time is how he furthers Batman's story. Because Because in the past, I don't know, 30, 40 years, whenever Batman has a major story happening, the best way to, quote, get over his villain as a major threat is to have him kick the ever-loving shit out of Grayson.
Right, and see, that's the brilliance here. Bane himself is not going to kick the ever-loving shit out of Grayson.
Oh, he's not going to get his hands dirty.
He's going to command somebody else to do it. So that it's parallel. You got to look at the parallelism here of it. Bane's flunky is going to order his flunky to take out Batman's flunky. That's the gimmick here.
Absolutely. And if you remember in Forever Evil, when Grayson had his public identity exposed to the world and was tortured in front of the world to get to Batman and to further Batman's story. Or if you recall back to Batman R.I.P., when Grayson was kidnapped by Les Balsis and tortured to get to Batman by Dr. Simon Hurt. Or if you go back and extrapolate from there, Night of the Monster Men, when Grayson was turned into a monster, for God's sake, to get to Batman. Or Death of the Family, in which the Joker kidnapped Grayson, alongside Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Barbara Gordon, Damian Wayne,
Alfred,
everyone else under the sun, Alfred, to get to Batman.
Now, to be fair for just a moment, we were just holding up Scott Snyder as the golden example just a few minutes ago. That's my first genuine playing of Devil's Advocate during this discussion.
All right, well, let me give you my first "it doesn't work" of the segment. I criticized Death of the Family, much to your mockery and derision, if you recall. I did not like Death of the Family. I thought it was Snyder's worst Batman story by far during his run. For reasons like the one we just talked about. Because it rendered my favorite character obsolete. And turned him into just a whipping boy for Batman's villains. Which I would argue is not the best use for a character who you should be trying to establish as an A-lister, as opposed to reinforcing as a jobber to the stars. The Coco Beware of the Batman universe, which is how I feel a lot of the time happens to said Grayson. So we've established that. He's got to have his ass kicked. In this case, get shot in the head, all for the purpose not of enhancing his character, but of enhancing Batman's pain. Because Batman just hasn't been put through enough. He has to go through another trauma at the hands of someone that's not himself. So Grayson's going to be an amnesiac, right? He's strolling the streets of Bloodhaven, and he's eventually going to have to become Nightwing again through muscle memory and all that good stuff, but he's going to be changed. He's going to be a different Nightwing. Perhaps he's going to be taking on new tactics that he's never used before. Who knows? It's all so bold. Nick, dare I say it, it's all new and it's all different.
It's a bold new direction. That's much is clear.
It definitely is. And I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, nothing to this point has made me more invested in the current Batman universe than all of this news we've just talked about. So you take the traditional sidekickery, you take the name Dick Grayson, you take Aquaman doing the same thing, you take Batman himself having done the same thing just a few years ago, you put all those in the corner, and damn it, Nick, this sounds like the best pitch for a Nightwing book I've ever heard.
Well, there you go.
Can't wait. I am so thrilled to see what happens to my favorite comic book character next. I'm all in. I'm going to buy every issue of this, probably 2 or 3 copies of it. I'm going to go back and buy all the Tom King single-issue Batman runs because Batman issues, because I'm so excited about this. Dan DiDio, I might actually personally write a letter thanking him because for years, fans of this character, Grayson, we've not been able to see the forest for the trees. We were told lies. We were told things like Dan DiDio didn't like Nightwing, like he hated Nightwing, like he thought Nightwing needed to get killed off, and that people like Johns were the only thing standing between Dick Grayson, as he was known then, and Oblivion. But we were wrong. All that Dan wanted was to make the character better. He wanted to build a better Nightwing.
He wanted to make Nightwing great again.
He did, and he has. He has made Nightwing as great as this wonderful country that we live in.
Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this, because you used that prolonged segment there to throw a lot of passive-aggressive shade at the current state of the Batman universe.
Oh, not at all.
And I understand you have your issues with Tom King's Batman. I get that, and they're fair. They're fair points. Let me ask you genuinely, who do you actually think is responsible for this? Tom King or Dan Didio?
Dan Didio.
Okay. Just want to make that point.
I was very harsh on Tom King. I blame Tom King very little for this. I think it's I believe you raised the point elsewhere that it's probably a combination of the two. Mm-hmm. But my personal blame meter is probably 60-40 to Didio, if not 70-30.
Yes. Didio wanted to do something, and Tom King was like, "Shit, what am I going to do?" And he came up with this. Maybe that's not accurate, but that's my.
I don't think the specific idea is very interesting or creative or compelling in any manner. And also, I would argue, if I were Kelly Sue DeConnick, I would be pissed right now because it's a very similar story arc, seemingly, or at least overarching premise that she's starting her Aquaman run off with. It was supposed to look unique and different. I don't know the reason for this. I don't know the reason for the timing of this, but regardless, I think it was a Dan Didio thing. I think you're right, Nick. I think he wanted to do another major shakeup to Grayson because the sales were not doing great on Nightwing. He wants something big and bold to happen to Nightwing, and this was what they went with. And whatever. I mean, like I said, I don't want to. Tom King jokes partially were jokes, partially were serious. But like you said, I've got my issues with Tom King run, but this is less about that. This is more about the specific state of Dick Grayson, the treatment of Dick Grayson for decades now. And I don't know when it's going to change. So
if you wind the clocks back about how long has it been, Greg? About 6 months ago when we got the Jeff Johns news that Jeff Johns was stepping down from his position, his executive position at DC, to start his own production company that would see him write some movies and have a heavier hand in actually creating content for DC Comics rather than overseeing things. As excited as we all were at the time, we were all excited. I believe I even said at that point, there was a part of me that was concerned because we had all heard the rumors of a divide in the leadership of DC where there were Jeff guys and there were Dan Didio guys, and the Jeff guys were largely tasked with keeping the Dan Didio decisions in check.
Right.
And now that Jeff Johns is gone, that doesn't exist anymore. And I would argue this is what you get as a result of it. So all of those people, myself included, who are excited for Jeff Johns to write more comics, this may be the price you have to pay.
Yeah, it's you raise a good point. It's frustrating. It's disheartening, and none of this should be an indictment, by the way, necessarily on Scott Lobdell. That was a joke earlier, but I've heard that his Red Hood and the Outlaws is good, but he also has written a lot of crap in the New 52, and when you
he's clearly a hired gun here.
Yes, he's a hired. That's exactly. I'm glad you put it that way because he is a hired gun who Ben Percy did not want to write this story clearly, and they wanted somebody to do this, and I don't believe Scott Lobdell pitched this. I believe they presented the story to him and said, "Can you write this?" And he said, "Yes, pay me," and presumably they did, and so he's doing it. I get it. I don't have any issues with Scott Lobdell doing this. I don't have any issues other than what I've already stated about Tom King. It is just they have done so much, and this is why I've taken a lot of flack from other Nightwing fans of why don't you buy Nightwing books if you love Nightwing so much. And this is one of the reasons why I don't get invested in Nightwing runs, because this always happens. Every single time. Nightwing gets sucked into some Batman event and made to look like an unimportant, measly figure in the DC universe instead of like a linchpin in the DC universe, instead of a character who can carry his own storylines, who can carry his own crossovers, who can have import outside of being the guy that used to be Robin. And this just, especially at a time when you're introducing him to presumably, theoretically, a new audience through your streaming service on Titans, this is how you're going to feature him in an amnesiac storyline right out of 1995 Days of Our Lives? Come on. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm taking this storyline far more to heart than I should. It's not a surprise, I suppose. It's just, and I wasn't reading the existing run because I feared where it was going, which was ultimately the same place every Nightwing story goes, Batman. So, and and it's weird. We talked about this off the air, Nick. We talked about how we both want Nightwing and Batman to have this strong connection. We want them to be tied together, but it's almost like a no-win scenario, because if they are tied together, this kind of shit inevitably happens.
Indeed, it does.
So, anyway, whatever. I don't want to ever hear. I get so tired of hearing Tim Drake fans bitch about stuff, because Tim Drake has not been treated nearly to the degree that. Oh yes, Nightwing has his own series. Yes, right. That's true.
That's what I was
Tim doesn't. Tim is almost never put in the position of being in the modern era of being the whipping boy to the degree that Dick Grayson is, where we need to get this villain over as a big-time threat. Let's have him torture and mutilate Nightwing. Not as often to Tim Drake, not as often to Damian, not as often to Barbara, not as often to any of the other supporting characters. Maybe Alfred, who lost a hand and then regained it.
He did. That's accurate.
So, in any event, let's move on from that. And let's go on to reading and watching.
Avengers is awesome. By Busiek and Perez, they're awesome.
Go fuck yourselves, hard-traveling fanboys.
What you been reading, Nick?
Nothing.
Samesies. I've been reading Avengers.
There you go.
What you been watching? Quite a few things, yes.
Yeah, so not entire aspects of anything. I watched, the DC Universe app in the past week.
We need to talk about that, by the way. The DC Universe app launched.
Yes, it did.
Last week.
It did.
At some point.
And so I watched the first episode of Young Justice, which I had already seen, but I pulled it up and watched that. I watched I watched a few of the old DC Nation shorts from that short live time period on Cartoon
Which ones did you watch?
I watched the Batman Beyond one, which was excellent. I watched the Green Arrow ones, which were less excellent. And I watched the Plastic Man's ones, which were actually kind of funny. And then I watched something watched two things that one of which I was never aware of, and the other of which Greg was never aware of. I watched the first 20 minutes of the Wonder Woman
74.
Yeah, the Linda Carter was 75, so the 1974 made-for-television movie starring Kathy Lee Crosby that was intended to serve as a pilot for an eventual ongoing Wonder Woman television series that bombed so badly they had to repurpose the television series entirely, and we wound up getting the Linda Carter version out of it. So,
is it telling tales out of school to suggest that we may do an off the page on this?
Yes, which is why I'm keeping my comments very brief. Has to be seen to be believed how bad it is. I'll put it that way. It is certainly a unique situation. And then I followed it up by watching about half, probably more than half, probably about 2/3 of a little something called The Legends of the Superheroes. And if you're not familiar with what this is a live action, live studio special that involves Adam West's Batman, Burt Ward's Robin, the Green Lantern, Hawkman, the Flash,
Captain Marvel,
and is that it?
Retired Man.
Oh, Retired Man. There was no female presence? I'm trying to remember.
Wonder Woman. And
no, Wonder Woman was on
Black Canary.
Black Canary was the female. Wonder Woman was on it. So, and Black Canary facing off against the Legion of Doom, which of course consists of Mordred, something. Sinestro, Solomon Grundy.
My favorite.
Giganta, Dr. Sivana, and the Riddler.
Played by
Frank Gorshin.
The legendary Frank Gorshin.
Yes, but this
is a little bit past his expiration date on that character at that time, but still doing his damnedest.
But essentially, this is a live action Justice League versus Legion of Doom television special aired in front of a live studio audience complete with laugh track, and it is very much a comedy. And it is certainly a unique situation, and I hesitate to say much more because we will probably also put off the page on this at some point.
Yeah, I watched about the first 25 minutes of this as well, and yes, it was an experience, to be sure, that we're going to revisit in the future.
Oh, well, so just for now, I'll give you a little teaser. If they ever get around to having Solomon Grundy in live action, he must be played by Brock Lesnar.
Yes, he's the reigning, defending, undisputed
champion of Legends of the Superheroes.
Yes. Anything else you've been watching on DCU?
No, I think that's about it.
Yeah, I have gone through and watched. Well, the first thing I did when the app first dropped last week, I think it was last Thursday night, maybe last Wednesday night, can't remember. I wanted to check the app, see how the streaming service went. So I went and I pulled up a certain episode, Lois and Clark, Superman, and see, just to test the service out and see what it looked like. So I pulled up the episode involving pheromones. And see how the episode aged.
All right, Eugene Levy.
And I found out that I am the man. No, I didn't find that out at all. But I did find out that, I rediscovered feelings, Nick, that came to me at an early age when I began to learn about the birds and the bees. That's all I'll say, except that I really, really love this iteration of Lois Lane. And then I went back and I watched the pilot episode of Lois and Clark, and I watched part of another episode. So I've been watching that. And what else have I watched on there? Legends of the Superheroes, part of that, obviously. Watched just a little bit of the Superman Doomsday movie from 2007, I think, which is just as not good as I remember it being.
I don't remember it being bad.
It's not bad. It's really not bad. It's just questionable.
I am interested to watch I still haven't watched the new Death of Superman, so I'm interested to watch perhaps those two within in a relatively short time frame to one another, just to compare. Because it's interesting to me that eventually, tackled the same story twice as a straight-to-video, standalone animated movie, and they haven't really done that before.
Right, and they were very open in the special features on Death and Return of the Death of Superman that this is very much a makeup, in their opinion, for what they messed up in the first one. And one of the things is, my God, they made Superman look like he was middle-aged by drawing lines all over his face. Like he's got a face that's more cracked than Darkseid. So I watched part of that. There's good things in it too, but like the action is all great. But I didn't see the whole thing. I fell asleep, but I'll revisit that at some point. And what else I watched? The DC Universe Presents series that they actually just put up over the weekend for Batman Day is a really cool little group of they're snippets. They're about 5-minute snippets of almost like mini documentaries introducing different things that are available on the site. Ralph Garman, for instance, introduces the Tim Burton Batman movies, the Joel Schumacher Batman Forever, and the first two Richard Donner Superman movies. Burt Ward introduces the Superfans and also introduces the Batman 66 comic book. The guy that plays Seg El on Krypton, whose name I don't remember at this time, he introduces some of the comics entries on the site, such as Hush. I watched his introduction for Hush and a few of the other classic stories that are on the site. But the Garmin ones in particular were loaded with information that I didn't know, because there's a lot of it's information from the special features of the Batman disc, but it was stuff that I wasn't privy to, like how Marlon Wayans was under contract for Batman Returns and Batman Forever, and they removed him from the script of Batman Returns and then flat out replaced him, much to Nick's joy, with Chris O'Donnell in Batman Forever. So very interesting. Also, a funny bit from Garmin in that the first two videos, he says at the end, DC Universe proudly presents Batman, and then D Universe proudly presents Batman Returns, and then he gets to DC Universe presents Batman Forever. A subtle change, but an appreciated one.
Yes.
And then I watched a little bit of DC Daily, but I haven't finished that episode yet. But so overall impressions of the app so far, Nick?
Pretty good. Pleased with the amount of video content at this point. I hope they continue to expand that. Obviously, there are still some things out that I'd like to see added down the road. And obviously, comics-wise, it's frustrating. Even if you remove the rotational, much about the rotational model out of it, there are like runs where they'll have issues like 1 through 6 and issues like 8 through 13, but for whatever random reason, issue 7 will be missing. And it's just like, and these are things that Marvel Unlimited, all went through, headache, whatnot, oversights and that kind of stuff. But a lot of little inconsistencies there that need to be cleaned up. If you're going to go with a rotational model, you at least need to give people the opportunity to read the run of whatever it is you're rotating on at any given point. If you can't even do that, then I'm going to have a lot of frustrations with the comic side, I'm afraid, as we go forward.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Little odd, by the way, that Batman and Robin has not been uploaded that I saw, the movie.
Yeah, I'm guessing one of the things that's rotated on later on was something else that's rotated off. Because are we assuming that the movie and TV library is also going to be rotational in nature?
I don't know. I haven't heard anything on that. But yeah, the comic side, I'm kind of a little bit in a different boat because my expectations had been lowered so severely on the comic book side that I'm actually pleasantly surprised by how much is available. I didn't expect hardly any runs to be on there. I thought you would have stories like Dark Knight Returns, Batman Year One, stuff like that. But I did not expect, for instance, to see the first however many issues of Mike Grell's Green Arrow, along with the Longbow.
Well, it's not it's like Hunters. The first, I think it's first like 11, and then they skip like 6 issues, and they come back for another 12. So stuff like that, I guess.
I didn't expect to have all of Batman Eternal on there. I didn't expect to have
Batman Eternal. That's a good point. You have the first 50 or so issues of classic Green Lantern on there of Silver Age Hal Jordan.
Yeah, which I'm sure that's high quality material to read at some point for the show. How would we even divide that if we did a Longbook Hunt? I don't know. Whatever. Figure it out.
We have to talk that out.
I want to read it because I've never read it before, so I'm curious.
It is certainly a unique situation. The character Pie Face in particular is one of is just unique.
Interesting. I also want to read some of those Golden Age comics they've got on there. They got like the first 6 issues of the original Batman, so that would be. I've read the Joker issue, and that's it. But,
I've read Detective 27. I don't. God knows how many times at this point. So I would probably just skip straight to Batman #1.
And then I've actually played around with the comic book reader on the TV, which was mocked and derided for some time, and I got to say, I'm actually pretty impressed with how, other than the autoplay feature, which I don't, as we've talked about my issues with that, but I guess it's good that it's there. I'm actually pretty impressed with how it works. I was able to, and you know how slowly I read. It took me, I think I said online 10 minutes. It was more about 15 minutes. 15 minutes, I read the first issue of Nightwing Year One like it was nothing on there because the words were huge. I could read everything perfectly. The art was good, but not super detailed, so it wasn't like a lot of stuff in the background. I breezed through it, and I was very impressed with how it worked. So, tentatively, I'm very excited about where the app can go. I agree with you that they've got to bolster the comic book side. They don't have to, obviously, but I wish that they would bolster the comic book side and add more stuff on there, because the problem is, and I think you might agree with this, Nick, once people have a taste of it, you can't then pull back and say, oh, well, you've had enough.
Yep.
People, if you're going to tantalize them with the first 11 issues of Green Arrow, Well, you better damn well give them the next 40 as well.
Now, see, here's my problem. Here's my ultimate concern. There's a little banner there in the app.
Yes.
That says the complete DC Comics digital library will be available for purchase in October. And I think that is now my biggest concern. Is I am now terrified the reason for this rotational model is just to be used as a reason to try and get you to buy the issues that follow whatever is rotating on.
Yes. One thing that I will say that is cool, though, is there is actually a banner also available on the app that I can't click on the Roku that says buy physical copy. And if you do it, it says that it will take you to a map of your closest local comic book shop. So that's kind of a cool bone throw to the LCSs that are very concerned about Marvel Unlimited and DC Universe and how they will hypothetically affect them in the future, which that's another story for another time. We've talked about the issues facing the comic book brick and mortar industry, and I think they're far greater than digital comics. But nonetheless, I'm overall happy with it. I don't regret my purchase at all, and am curious to see where they go. But they certainly have a lot of room to grow, and we'll just see how they take to it. Some are theorizing that they will eventually be pressured into going the unlimited route anyway. So hopefully for our sake, that's the case.
Well, we'll just have to keep the pressure on via the sponsorship for the Place to Be Nation Comics Fantasy Draft.
That's right. Which, by the way, Nick, give us an update. How are your pitches coming along? Oh, wait, you don't have any. You bowed out of actually doing the draft.
I was the draft master. I had mastered the draft.
That's right. Much like the Taskmaster mastered the alliance to end Hulkamania.
I will make my triumphant return in the next draft and defend my crown.
Yes, as inevitable draft master Mitch Oken will be controlling the draft at that time, most likely.
That's right. Mitch Oken. That's his name.
Unless we can, one of us can upset. We'll see. With that being said, folks, we hope you enjoyed the show. And we will be back in exactly 1 week's time, roundabouts.
One more thing.
Okay.
Playing.
Oh, duh. Yeah, sorry. What have you been playing, Nick? Have you been playing anything?
Yes, I completed Spider-Man for the PlayStation 4. I have many thoughts, a lot of which directly involve spoilers, so I will not share those. I will say this. A story that is far more emotionally affecting and engaging than I was expecting it to be. Arguably one of the best stories of any video game I've ever played. And now, granted, I don't play a lot of video games anymore the way I used to, so it's not exactly like I have not been playing a lot of the great narrative video games that have come along in the last few years, like The Last of Us or God of War, a lot of the other things that people hold up as excellent video game stories. So, take that praise with a grain of salt. But as far as superhero games go, this story is right up there. Overall, last week when we talked about it, I was about halfway through at that point, and I said for me it was likely the third greatest superhero game I'd ever played, but was a clear-cut blow, both Arkham City and Arkham Knight. After finishing it, it is every bit on the level of Arkham City and Arkham Knight, to the point where I'm going to try and replay those to suss out what order they come in, but I would not be surprised at all if when this is all said and done, this game is either my number 2 or possibly my favorite superhero game of all time.
Wow. Never thought I'd hear it, given that Batman is your favorite fictional character.
He is, but Spider-Man is also a character that is near and dear to my heart. And this... Yes.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
And Spider-Man, the game, has the advantage of no freaking Riddler trophies.
No Riddler trophies, but you do have various other collectibles, and I will say the one advantage that this has over it, as much fun as it was in Arkham City to glide over the rooftops, or as much fun as it was in Arkham Knight to careen around Gotham in the Batmobile, there is nothing more fun than simply swinging around the city and web-zipping and getting from place to place in this game. Like, just moving around from location to location is so much fun and so beautiful to look at that it carries this game to it very highly. I'll put it that way.
Not ugly. Mm-mm. Very, very Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that by the way, we should probably take a moment here to remind people that they are listening to the longest running weekly episodic comic book podcast in all Place to Be Nation.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't want to let an episode go by with that. Oh, and also, I'm looking at the clock right now, and wouldn't you know it, Nick? There's a minute on the clock. It's time for the Wrestling Minute. Gosh, what's been going on in the world of wrestling that's caught your eye, Nick?
Well, I haven't watched Raw yet, and I haven't watched SmackDown yet, so I'm probably a bad person to ask. Oh, we had the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view was fine. It was fun. Had some good matches there. I don't need to see Ronda Rousey selling for an extended period of time, personally. That's not something I need to see just yet, but,
Although she did a good job at it, I thought.
She did a good job at it. I'm not disputing the ability. I'm disputing the should this be happening at this juncture.
Yes,
and I would say, no, it should not. I would also say that a no contest should not be happening ever in a Hell in a Cell match because it defeats the entire purpose, but that's just what I might say. Don't let the negative outweigh the positive because you had several really good matches there, whether it was the tag team title match most predominantly, or whether it was Charlotte and Becky had a very good women's title match. So a lot of
AJ and Samoa Joe tore it down.
A lot of good stuff. Yep.
Really good match, and then even the opener with Randy Orton and Jeff Hardy, where that involved a screwdriver and an earlobe, which I never thought I would say in the context of a wrestling match or ever, I guess. But then again, you see a lot of crazy things on the streets of Mobile. Great show. I thought. Main event was a little bit of a letdown, as it kind of made Roman and Braun look weird, didn't it? To lay there for roughly 15 minutes while Ambrose, Rollins, Ziggler, and McIntyre brawled about the cage area.
Yes, I agree.
But nonetheless, great show. I don't mean to be a damper on it. I thought it was excellent. Everybody overperformed for the most part. It was a great show. And then Raw, I did watch Raw, and it had 3 very, very good matches on it, including one of the best Baron Corbin matches I've seen. So that's been the Wrestling Minute.
Indeed it has.
And with that being said, gosh, look at the time.
Oh, man.
It's just about time for us to hit the old... We have gone long, but it's just about time for us to hit the old dusty trail. And we leave you, as we always do, with a song. Nick, take it away.
What?
I guess I'll leave us with a song then. Here's an old song my daddy used to sing to me. And if you can sing along with it, feel free to join us. Ha 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 ha! Delta Dawn, what's that flower you have on? Could it be a faded rose from days gone by? And did I hear you say he was meeting you here today? Take you to his mansion in the sky.
Hard-Traveling Fanboys, 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 Hard-Traveling Fanboys.